Noting the time and the presence of a quorum, I bring the Boxborough Finance Committee meeting to order. It is November 18th and it's 7 p.m. And we are partly remote, so we'll do a roll call attendance. John, are you on yet? John Grieven? Can you state your name and say present?
Yep, there we go. Yeah, John Grevin, present.
Michelle?
Ryan, present.
Stolpen, present.
Nealon, present.
Connor, present.
And Newton, present. And also with us we have Rajon Hudson, Deputy Town Administrator, Honghua Lee, Finance Director. We have Gary Kushner, our Clerk, and Susan Back from the Boxborough News. So first minutes of November the 4th are sent out. Are there any questions, objections, comments? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote to approve. So John?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, and you and I. Okay. Citizens' concerns? I've got nothing.
Oh, wait, Liz has her hand up.
Oh, Liz.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to unmute you, Liz. Okay, you should be unmuted.
Great, thank you. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. We're prepping for a big thing tomorrow. I've got to do a ton of cooking. Just wanted to give you guys an overview of the school committee meeting that we had on November the 6th. So we heard about data-informed practices. We had an assessment recap. We do still continue to have, with the schools, a challenge in early literacy for many of our students. We looked at the equity and intervention piece. We discussed a little bit of the feedback of AB Forward, and also AB Forward is having a steering committee meeting tonight. So at our next meeting, you can expect to see the findings and sort of the next steps with that. You know, and then we also did provide budget guidance to our administration department for putting together a budget with along with our budget subcommittee. So just wanted to give you guys the update on that.
So Liz, with that budget guidance including the sort of A and B budgets that we talked about here at FinCom for Boxborough?
So it will be. We're going to be looking at, you know, the different budgets that we can within our operating increase. We typically try to keep our operating increase at a 3% increase to the total budget.
Right.
And so knowing, you know, that the towns may have some difficulties as well, and also knowing the increasing costs, especially with health insurance and being in the midst of a negotiation year, you know, we are sort of being conservative and looking at sort of the two different options. However, we've just provided the guidelines, and we don't have any concrete numbers at this point. The budget subcommittee needs to meet again and, you know, really refine things with the committee and the administration. I don't expect us to have more concrete numbers until the beginning of December.
I suppose the question is, what does the school committee do in the event that we need an override in Boxborough and the override fails? You know, so for the town, we're doing this A and B budget, you know, set up, and we've given guidance to the town of 5.5% for the, you know, the normal budget process, the A budget, and then 2% or less than 2% for the, if it fails the override. And that's our first estimate of what we think we need to be within to keep within the levy limit. So the question will be, if an override fails, what will be the school committee's sort of budgetary response to that?
So without having a crystal ball, I mean, so if an override fails and the assessment that is provided at that time is not able to be met, the school committee would reconvene. Now, obviously, like, you know, like I, in particular, you know, I have been an advocate for open collaboration with the town of Boxborough and with the town of Acton.
Right.
So I have extremely high hopes that we will not get to that point. I intend to work very hard to make sure that we are funding both our town and our schools. You know, and I look to continued collaboration with the finance committee on that, to be honest. In that case, you know, we do understand At the same time, we can't necessarily cut our nose to spite our face. There are legal requirements that we have to meet for, and if those legal requirements wind up becoming too much, that's where we would have further discussions
Yeah.
into how we could make that work. But knock on wood, we will get this done together and we will fund both our town and our school committee, or school budget.
Yeah. Okay. Comments, questions?
No.
Great, thanks, Liz.
Yeah.
So next up, we have a reserve fund transfer request from the town. And the reason for this is that because we have bans that are outstanding, and some of those bans are now over 2 years old, we have to pay principal back on the bans. And the principal amount is $37,000. This, in a way, is not a surprise. Shouldn't be a surprise because it should have been known about. Actually, I'm sure somebody knew about it, but it didn't flag it up in our budgeting process. So the question is, will we approve a reserve fund transfer to cover that unbudgeted amount of funding?
So what's the consequence of not approving it?
Well, so what we could do, here's one option, is we could still pay it because we have money in the budget for interest, debt servicing, which is for the bonds. So we could pay that money out of that account. The rest of the money, the next payment on the bonds is not due until May.
Is that
So-
the 37 you're talking about, or is that a
No,
second
no,
payment?
37 is due in December the 1st, right?
Okay.
But the interest on the bonds, which is 81,000, is not due until May. So what we could do, we could say, pay the bans out of the interest line in the budget, which I believe is legal to do that. It's still
Yeah.
interest, right?
Yep, it is.
And we can then, when May comes around, and we will owe that 81,000 in May, we'll be 37,000 short in that account. But at that point, we can do a budget transfer, I think.
Yes.
And that way we keep the money in the reserve fund because, it's a fairly big hit on the reserve fund, I think. So, personally, I think I would rather keep a little bit of money in the cushion now rather than get us into a situation where we have no reserve funds maybe midway through the year for whatever reason. So that's my suggestion, but I'll take comments and questions on that.
So just to follow up to that, I mean, is this a proper use of the reserve fund?
Well, technically,
It's not emergency.
it's not an unforeseen, it shouldn't have been.
It's not
Yeah.
unforeseen.
It was
Yeah.
a oversight by whoever in budgeting, but it's not unforeseen and it's not a surprise. So technically,
No.
although we do need to pay our bills, but I actually like your thinking of, let's get to the point, because, think about how far over our budget was last year, right? So rather than using,
We were underspent last year.
We underspent last year, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How so we underspent, so we can move that money in May. Or if we don't have money, somehow, we don't have money, we could hit the reserve fund, because we have to pay our bills.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, maybe we have half of it that we could move, and then just have to pay 15. But I agree with you, it's a big hit right now, it's early in the year
Mm.
to hit the reserve fund.
I think that's a good strategy.
Yeah,
You're-
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll defer on that reserve fund transfer then, Longwell, and make a note for May that we can do a transfer to cover that shortfall now in the bond interest fee.
Do we have to take action in any way or consult on the transfer that they'll do to cover it out of the interest, or is that just
No,
something they can do
that
without
would
our-
just then be a budget transfer in May, and I don't think we have to even.
But for this,
Oh,
for
no,
this
that's
now,
fine, because
they can-
it just says long-term debt.
Okay.
And we know it's interest because
Yeah.
that's how we budget it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the only thing that you can't do is you can't use salaries for other.
Okay.
So but this is just debt, so it's fine.
Yeah. Gary.
So I have a question, sort of policy related. In the past, we used to not cover funds, like reserve fund, if there was funds still in that account.
Right.
As you indicated, there are funds in the account.
Yeah.
I thought last year we had this discussion, I brought it up, and I thought we had created a policy around this, I could be mistaken.
We didn't create a policy.
No.
We talked about it, but that's effectively what we're doing anyway, right?
Well, you're doing what I'm talking about, I'm just
Yeah.
reminding you that that has been the past history
Yeah,
for doing, you know, when things like this come up.
yeah,
If there are monies in the other or payment, personnel,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
right,
that use those funds first,
Yeah.
and then backfill later in time, either through reserve or into departmental. So the way you're going, the way you're talking is, I think, the right thing to do. I really think we should come up with either guideline or policy around this in the future.
It's more of a practice than a policy, I would say, at this stage. I mean,
It has
Keep
been a more
forgetting
of a
It's not
practice.
documented, so,
yeah,
you know, that's one thing I keep thinking, you should document it. So the staff, so the town hall knows about it, various committees know, it needs to be documented.
I don't,
It's not we're against it, but
I think we can certainly document a procedure. I don't think we make it a policy, because if you make it a policy, then if we need to kind of go around that policy
Yeah.
for whatever reason, then we need to take a vote, and it just becomes, and our policies are usually then voted by the select board, and just a
it's
thing.
a lot of hoopla to go through.
But, I mean, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
documenting it isn't a bad idea as a procedure. Or maybe we can do that next spring, next fall, when we have, before we get in the budget. But
Just
I
like a
don't.
flow
So
chart
we're-
of like possible paths when there's a reserve fund transfer, you
Yeah,
know, you
something
can do X, Y, and
easy.
Z.
We
and
used to
just
have it
as a
attached
tool,
to the
a
reserve
rubric.
fund
Right.
document. It used to be on the top, used to be sort of the procedure on how to get it approved. Used to take a lot more steps to get it approved. You
Yeah.
had to go to select board for signatures, and then, the
And that
FinCom.
disappeared for just like.
And then that
Years
got
of use
changed
or
a few
something?
few FinComs ago, a few years
okay,
ago.
okay,
It just, they changed it. And again, I think that's why we want to be careful about turning something into a policy.
Yeah,
Because, so,
Yeah.
particularly since we generally do that anyway. But
so we could modify the wording on this form.
if we wanted to, yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it was a while ago. It was probably like when I was maybe even still on the school committee.
Yeah.
The FinCom decided they didn't like the form, they cleaned it up and they modified the language on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So there is additional carrying costs for this principal?
For the ban,
Yeah.
when you think of carrying costs, what do you mean? You mean?
Well, if we're gonna pay it back, it's just a question of how, correct?
the total ban?
Yeah.
It'll be rolled into a bond when we get enough money
Okay.
together.
Yeah.
These bands we take bands out and then
Yeah,
we
yeah.
roll them into bonds when there's enough.
Yeah,
money to bond.
yes, and we're not paying interest, it's actually not interest, this is actually principal we're paying back,
Okay.
not interest. So interest is paid separately at some other point in the year, but that's all budgeted for.
Okay, but so the timing of principal payback is not affected by this?
No.
It's not?
Well, the bands are they're 1 year bans, so in November, like now, they'll be rolling another band together with new things that came up in town meeting last year. So there'll be a bigger band coming through. But the older parts of the band, if they're more than 2 years old, you have to pay principal at some point. You can't go in indefinitely with those.
I understand that, yeah, so
rolling
it just,
over.
if you don't pay principal back, you're always accumulating interest. They don't let you not do that for free. I'm not sure I understand.
You pay interest on an ongoing basis. So the ban, within 2 years, the ban amount stays the same. You pay interest just to cover
Right.
the interest, but the principal stays the same until it hits 2 years, and then you have to start paying principal as well as interest.
Okay.
And the reason these have gone on so long is that we haven't really accumulated enough ban to make it worthwhile rolling into a bond,
Yeah.
because there's fees associated with that, and it's not really worth doing unless it's like $4 or $5 million. It's not really worth doing that.
Okay.
So we'll get to that point, soon, I think, with the fire station stuff.
And we do need to keep in mind, there is usually fees when we have to do that. We do need to come up with fees for bonding.
Yeah,
So what will happen is, once they've decided there's enough bands to roll together into a bond, that usually then becomes an warrant article for, Gary, $20,000-$30,000 for the fees for the bonding. So,
that's the right range.
yeah, so we'll know when these bands then become bonds, because we'll have to deal with those
Yeah.
warrant articles.
yeah.
Okay.
On the same topic, I've got an updated list now of what all the bans that we have voted and outstanding that Homwish has given me. So the list I showed last time of the voted bans and what's been paid it's missing actually one road maintenance line. There's a, it wasn't in there, so I'll update that that list in the dashboard.
Okay, do we need to vote on this, or we don't need to vote on this, right? I don't think so.
I don't think
Okay.
so. No. So FY26 budget updates. I don't think there's anything I've got on that topic. I saw that Carly sent out updates
Yeah,
today. I
a
didn't
whole
look at
bunch of them.
Yeah, I didn't
It
look
just, yeah, they're just, it's hard to
at them. Yeah.
go through it all.
Yeah, could we ever get a summary of that? We're talking about the 1 through 170 pages of documentation.
Well, we get the summary with the dashboard, I suppose, at
Okay.
the end of the
I
quarter.
mean, but does somebody's making time to send these out.
Yeah, Carly is, she's the assistant accountant.
Do you look at,
I do. It's just that when it's easier to look at them on a monthly basis, even if I don't get them monthly or quarterly. When you get 6 months together and you have detail and then you have a summary, I just haven't had time to sit and do that. Generally what I do is I just skip to the most current one, because quite frankly, it's cumulative, right? So you get to the most current one, you can see what we spent and what we have left in any category.
right?
So I don't need to know what we spent in August, because now it's November. So if I can
Even
get closer.
if you go to the bottom of it, I'm looking for a summation of some sort, and it's not.
No.
It's not, it works for them because that's part of the Vadar system, right? So that works for them. It's not all that useful for us to look at or to get into a form like an Excel spreadsheet where we could manipulate the information, or I don't even think we could turn that into an Excel spreadsheet.
Well, this is where we came in, right? This is where it all started, when that's
where
all
we
we
started.
had, when going back 3 years, and that's when I started doing the dashboards to try to
Sure.
summarise down in sort
Manageable
of
terms.
a point we can actually understand and see trends in it. So
And the thing is, at the bottom, it doesn't really help with the summary because you have the budget, but then you have all these warrant articles.
Yeah.
And then all these accounts. So that's where it gets a little confusing. It's almost like we should do a tutorial to make sure everyone understands what they're reading. But there is a ton of information in that report. It just isn't easy to manipulate.
Okay.
yeah,
So
okay.
it's also not, it's not your fault. It is the system, what we have,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
works for you guys for
Yeah,
paying,
yeah.
right? So that's the important thing.
Yeah. So FY27 budget. First one is the budget model, which John has been working very hard on.
You have to.
Want to give us an update, John?
Sure. Yeah, actually, can I share a screen?
Yeah, you can share.
Are you
on,
not,
you can share
are
on
you
Zoom?
on as a
Oh, yeah.
co-host?
Yeah.
Where'd it go? All right, where do I want to go? I want to go here. Right, I'm gonna make it smaller, 'cause- Can you guys still see that?
Yeah, because it works on my
Yeah,
screen.
I'll give it more.
Yeah.
Minimize that. Okay, so, yeah, I've been running with this, Tony and I met once on this, getting closer, but there's a few key things I want to talk to. So the first one, so nothing's changed really, here's your assumptions, here's kind of where we are on the 26 estimate. And then the whole model extrapolates from 26 onward. So the key area obviously is column C, what we're using as the current baseline. One would think that'd be pretty cut and dry in terms of let's just plug in the budget numbers, but it's not perfectly because the budget is, especially for estimates, it's a little bit different than I think what we're going to base it off of, quite frankly.
These estimates are from,
So it's a combination of estimate, which I'll go through,
yeah,
and the actual budget itself. So two things. Let's just keep to the simple stuff. The other column, the other row. So this one is not in, so we asked Hung Hwa, who's been very helpful, sending the data. So that's not in Hung Hwa's export that she sent us. She gave us a nice clean export of all of these values up here, or some of them, and we had to extrapolate the other ones. But this one's not here. So all I'm trying to do is, it's not a big number, I'm just wanna make sure that it's not double counted anywhere else, and if we should be using it.
So it's CPC?
That's my understanding.
So the TNC is a small number. That is less than, that's generally $600, that's it.
Sorry, what's TNC?
It's, I don't know exactly what it is, but it has to
It's
do with car
Uber. It's
services.
It's Uber.
Uber,
Uber and Lyft pay the
Oh my God,
state
that's right, yeah, yeah.
some money for,
It's,
as like a tax.
It's less
And
than-
some
it's less than
comes,
rounding
some
error.
comes to the town, it's like a few $1,000s.
yeah.
Yeah.
So literally it's
Yeah.
$600. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
it's ever been over $1,000.
Yeah.
Right, and CPC is like,
And CPC is CPC.
okay.
Yeah.
So CPC, it's not technically a revenue unless,
I know, these are,
Well, it's in there because in the budget model that I gave John originally,
Yeah.
in our town budget, we have CPC outgoings and
Yes.
CPC incomings.
that's what I was gonna say, it needs to be offset on
And
the
it's
other
complete- And it's
side,
completely balanced.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's managed,
Yeah,
separately.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right,
okay.
yeah.
okay.
So this is just like reflecting it.
And that should just be
It should just match exactly. what-
exactly.
Okay,
Should
cool.
be, so ultimately,
Actually,
go ahead, sorry.
yeah, I mean, do you mean revenues and expenses should match?
The CPC revenues and expenses should
Yeah,
match.
would
Yes.
match, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, but, okay,
So there should
We
be
don't
somewhere
manage
in
that.
expenditures a CPC line that will match that
Right.
number.
but that's where we don't see that.
We don't have that, so
So-
so that line should come out, I think.
under ATM articles estimate, that does not include any CPC.
No, so that's a whole
Articles.
nother issue. You're going from one red line to
Well, I'm
another
just,
red
okay,
line.
okay, I understand, and I almost didn't want to say anything, because I'm like, that's another red line, but that said, usually, well, so those would be, CPC articles are part of the
Cause we bring
eight.
our own articles.
Yes, but they're all under ATM articles, right? It's the whole warrant
They're nested.
package. Yes, within that. But the offset to that, when we look at funding, that is the CPC monies, that's all managed separately, but that's the offset to it.
So
So
I
you should
wonder-
have, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
It should be a one-to-one.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so all right, so if we didn't include it in the ATM, it shouldn't be on row 30,
Right,
correct?
yeah.
It should be netted out, and that should just be the
Yeah.
TNC,
Yeah.
which is the 600 or 800.
yeah, I
I'm
wonder if
gonna
it should
call
just be
that zero.
nested
We call it
under
zero, yeah.
ATM
yeah,
articles.
yeah.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's go down to the second red row. The ATM articles estimate, and this is a huge one. Because right now, with this current model, we have plenty of levy limit excess capacity, which tells me the model is wrong
In this year,
in
Any year,
any year.
going forward.
okay? But we should know what our levy capacity is. We're in FY '26, so we should know what that is.
Well, yeah, it's less than that.
And
this year.
certainly, it's gonna be voted on Monday night. So we certainly should know Monday night, because
Yeah,
Monday
okay,
night,
yeah.
it's the tax classification hearing at the select board. But, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, fair enough. And one of the drivers, I mean, I think I have higher confidence in all of the other numbers except for C41, this number right here.
Okay,
So it's a driver. Another number we've had in there is in the $2 million range, right? So the question is, how do we integrate?
So what were the articles, we know what the articles were for FY '26 from the
that's,
budget.
yeah, so we should know that.
We know that,
But,
right?
but that number's low.
It's more than that, yeah.
Well, so if you look at the footnote, it's just the RNA.
Right, okay, just on that, yeah, because bonding stuff, you're not including in there.
Okay, so we had this discussion.
Right.
Shoot it down.
Bonding, fine, okay.
Bonding
But
is
what
one for
about
one.
the free cash stuff?
Free cash is up above.
I know, but we use free cash to pay for the articles.
So, all right, so
So that's, right? So you need to show it on your expenditure, because again, that's a one-for-one.
Yep. We missed that.
Yeah.
So the bonding is harder to do, right? You gotta just, that's a separate line.
But to
Because
be
it
honest with
doesn't, you know.
we're just saying any capital line, any large item
Yeah.
that's, we're gonna say it's gonna be on the capital. It's
Yeah.
gonna be bonded, basically.
Yeah, probably, yep. But in this case, we should know what's bonded, because we should have the minutes, we can get the minutes from May, and we'll know what we bonded, but we know that we used free cash. So that's why that number's wrong. That's why that number's too low.
Well, it's not low for RNA, right? That's
No,
that
it's
is
probably accurate for
Yeah,
RNA,
Yeah.
right? Minus, I'm gonna throw you another wrench, minus anything that's put back into the budget,
Yeah, we know, yeah. they know
right? So there was
that,
2
yeah.
or 3 articles
That's
that
because,
are,
because
do you guys understand that?
some stuff goes, we went through
Yes.
that, yeah, some stuff in the RNA warrant articles gets rolled into the modified, if you like, budget.
Right. So the hours, things
Mhm.
like that, get to roll back into the budget. So that should be up top.
So we're gonna, how are we gonna come up with 2026? So for example,
Well, we should know that, because we know what was rolled into the budget, and that budget number there, I think, includes all the rolled in stuff.
Yeah, and you guys have that number, you guys met
Yeah.
and signed off and everybody understood that.
So we
And
know,
that's a
we
small
know what
amount.
was not rolled in, which was not much, I don't think.
Maybe ATM needs its own category, like header, with everything that was voted and then broken out into the
So
three
that
places it
is,
goes.
so that's one of the problems is that the way we record the ATM is minutes, which are done, Becky does a lovely job with the minutes, but then we have to literally go in
Like
and pull
parse
stuff
through.
out. And then, and then literally put it in an Excel spreadsheet. Tony does this. Versus, you're right, there needs to be, for financially, we need to track it separately.
Yeah.
Somehow, and make sure the two things match. But that just takes work, because there's no way to, one's a Word document, and one is,
But I
there's
feel
no
like
way
there's
to
no-
take that money out.
There's no other way to do that, though.
But in terms of the model,
Right.
though, John, we can do the estimate for 26, because we know that number, that's a knowable number.
yes, I mean, I think, let me just hold on one
The
second.
qu-
Can you
and-
break
and-
that down, John? Can you do ATM articles and then do RNA and make that the 339 and then do free
Yeah, the
cash?
free
Oh,
cash,
yeah.
You know what I
no.
mean?
So we're talking about that chart that is the two-dimensional chart that has sources
Yeah.
across the top.
Yeah,
And spend categories,
yeah, in the
Going
bottom,
down.
yeah,
right?
in the budget model.
Yeah, I want to bring that up right now, so just bear with me.
'Cause for me, even if like the numbers add up in a certain way, it'd be nice to look at this and see like, all right, ATM happened. These
So-
are the three places the money went, and see it, as opposed to them just being hidden in each of these other lines.
Yeah.
This is 25. Hold on one second, let me try to share this. How do I switch
You
screens?
need to stop share.
So while you're sharing that, that's the thing, we only fund four categories of funding. We have
Yeah.
free cash, raise and appropriate, bonding, and CPC. That's it.
Right.
Documents
So-
showing up here.
So it would be a lot better to be able to look at it like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, just like all
Are
the
you
money that
Zoom- are you
was,
Zoom?
Yeah.
Yes.
What
appropriated.
do you
all-
got going there, John? That's like,
That's actually my screen
That's-
he's looking at.
oh.
Yeah, yeah. It does-
that's pretty fancy.
Yeah, yeah.
I meant to do that. This guy.
Yeah,
So is this 25 or 26?
So this is,
Fiscal year 26. This is this year.
is this?
oh, so that's in the
Yeah.
back of the warrant, so
Yep.
this should be this year's numbers.
Yep,
Is that right?
before voting.
Right, as it appears in the warrant.
Yeah,
So there's our free cash that Maria's telling me that I need to put as an expense. Yep, 794, 526.
but the RNA is only 95,000.
Correct. So, on my chart, I did a 3-year average.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
But CPC is right, because that's 88.5, right? And, oh, there's the breakdown, 88.5 and 858 for your TNC, right? So that would be actual numbers, because that is what it is, going in, well, I suppose,
Well, assuming you all got voted, but don't.
we're assuming it gets voted,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
TNC gets voted, but,
Yeah,
I guess you need to take this, because this was pre-town meeting, this went in the back of the warrant, we just
Yeah.
need to check it with
Make sure
the numbers,
yeah, 'cause-
the minutes
Yeah.
afterwards.
And I've aggregated there all the protection stuff into one number
Mhm.
rather than different lines, so
Mhm.
I think it all got voted.
Right, and there's no, yeah, so this is real numbers for 26, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Providing
this
it
is-
got voted this way.
yeah.
This was
I
presented
think
to the
all of
town.
those numbers there
Think
got
so,
rolled
too.
into the budget though, I think.
Come again?
All of those numbers got, no, maybe not the town
No.
government, not the town government stuff.
This is,
So that chart needs to be checked against the minutes.
Yes, just to confirm. Although from memory,
this is from
I don't
your-
think anything got changed on town floor.
Yeah.
for that. I think the only thing that changed on town floor was the budgeted thing for the planning board.
Yeah.
Okay,
But yes, it should be checked every year against the minutes.
Yeah.
okay. So, stock share.
There's a,
Hung Wall's got something.
yeah.
Oh, well,
Go for it.
I noticed on there, it's a town government, it's like 37,737, it should be only 7,737, not 37,000.
oh, really?
Because, hold on, because it was pre-town meeting, that 30 got rolled into the budget. Is that right? Is that about the number that we rolled in for personnel stuff?
So that's 7,000, that's the treasure collector, that's additional hours.
But was there,
That was my own.
were there other?
But there
things
was
that-
other stuff, there was,
The 30,000 for the assessor, right?
there was hours for community services.
That's in there,
There was
that's
three-
up there, that's up there,
Yes.
separately.
Oh, that's under health
Can
services.
I show you something in case there's help?
Yeah. Are you signed on? You're,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever you want to do. Yeah, you signed on, or?
No, so this is what I keep track. So
Okay.
that's our general fund budget, these are the warrant articles, so
Mhm.
you add it all up, that's that. And then, the total operating is this, these are the two warrant article, the 50,000, that's what the difference is. So that's that one I was talking about, was that.
Okay.
I don't know, is that helpful?
Well, I mean, how does it, so what's the end state for going forward, is my question.
Well, the question is, what's RNA not rolled into the budget for FY26? What was not rolled into the budget? What's left over as a separate warrant article that you track separately?
Article 15, the 30,000, the assessor.
The official revaluation, okay, so
And
that's,
then the B program, Article 24 for 20,000.
so what's that number?
so 30,000 was for the revaluation, so that's in town government, right?
That's a warrant article,
Yeah, yeah, and what was the other thing?
B program.
B-
20,000.
So that's under community services.
That's under community services.
What is it?
Okay, BAP, the
B-REP,
Foxborough
B-REP, but isn't that,
no, BEAP, was it Emergency Assistance Programme?
okay,
Yeah, so 20,000 was not in the budget, not rolled into the budget, and 30,000 for the assessment was not in the budget. So there's 50,000
Yeah.
that are warrant articles that are tracked separately as ATM articles,
but are raised and appropriated.
but they're raised and appropriated, and they're tracked separately, and those actually stay on the books until we spend them. Actually,
Right. So are they, but they're in these numbers,
they're in that total number there.
Yeah.
It's the 20,000,
Yep.
and it's part of the 37,000.
right? It's
Yeah.
30,000 of the
It's the,
37,000.
yeah, and the other 7,000 is the assessor increase. Not the assessor, the treasurer increased hours, I think.
But that should be part of the budget.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, that should be, then, that 7,000 should be rolled into the budget,
Yes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I
yeah,
think just 50 of that whole column is not, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 50 is the number then, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry, are you saying that out of the 95,739, that all did not go into the budget, only 50,000 did?
no, we're saying 45,739 went to the budget, and 50,000 didn't go in the budget.
so what was DPW? What was the 20?
Part-time,
Oh, okay, right, so that was all human,
Yeah.
okay, and so that did go in the budget,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'll help my little brain keep up here. So,
We're all trying to
You
keep up.
having fun
No.
yet?
so I'm just trying to think. I'm going to break this down into 3 subcolumns.
Right,
This report,
Yes, so
Okay.
we need to include, I'm guessing 45,739 for RNA for this year. We use 794 free cash. I'm going to skip bond, and I'm going to add CPA and TNC together for the roughly 80s.
well, CPA I think you can leave out altogether, because
Okay,
you
money.
leave it out both sides, though.
Leave it
Yeah,
out
well,
both
both
sides.
sides, yeah, because money comes in for CPA and it goes out for CPA, and it's always a wash.
okay.
And-
So what we need, I think, is probably for RNA we need 2 columns actually. We need one that says RNA gets rolled into the budget, and RNA
think it's
tracked
Do you
separately.
guys
CPA,
understand?
same as CPC.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
CPA is the Community
But-
Preservation Commission
To that level of
Right.
detail,
makes a
are we
decision
going?
to use the community preservation, whatever the A is. It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Another
for the model, we need to do that because what we've got is that,
I'm on that
otherwise we're
committee.
double
What do you mean?
counting
It's like,
because
why
we've
do
got a
they call
budget
CPA?
number that includes some of this RNA stuff. And then we've got RNA warrant articles that we need to say, well, which of those are already rolled into the budget?
Okay.
So the question is so what we're trying to do is we're trying to estimate going forward, how much RNA is there going to be in the town that's not personnel or budget related, that's sort of one-off,
That's just, yeah.
that's just a one-off purchase or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't, we don't know that, but we can probably estimate that.
Well, we're not sure about the assessor. That's been every year for 5 years, but
Well,
we're
not
gonna
do-
look at
not
that,
doing
right?
that
We're not doing
anymore,
that
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
And then the rest of it is just personnel stuff. And, right? That's gonna go into the budget.
Yeah, well, this BAP, I suppose, was like a one-off.
You know, I don't really know what they're planning to do with that,
Yeah.
but, if it's gonna be more than 1 year, then they need to try to figure out how to get
Yeah,
that in the budget.
yeah.
But we don't,
So in other words, RNA non-budgeted is going to be fairly minimal,
it should
we
be.
think.
I think so. Yeah,
And probably stuff which is like a one-off purchase, short-term, will be free cash.
especially with the amount of free cash we
Yeah.
have in the next couple
Yeah.
of years, yep.
Last year, we couldn't find anything we could use free cash.
We couldn't use enough free cash
Yeah.
last year, right? We were trying and we just,
Yeah.
but we also did some bonding. I think this year we're gonna probably have to take a harder look at, do we bond this or do we use free cash for a piece of equipment that we would normally bond? And there's a lot of people that, that opinion goes 50-50. We'll have to have that discussion.
So John, where are you with,
So-
what else do you need from us?
Help me, just give me my subcomponents. So what we were talking about just then, it's gonna be the other stuff from the grid, right?
So we need a line for RNA not in the budget, not already rolled into the budget.
Yep.
And we need a line for RNA. And that's it, yeah. And then a line for free cash usage.
Free cash, no CPA, no.
Yeah.
So for the free cash, you're treating it like revenue when we use it, and then taking it out of that revenue that was generated on the expense line, or like.
See,
'Cause it
Yes.
seems like it's an expense to me, but I guess we are,
But it's a revenue.
or it's a revenue when we
It's a source of.
When we
source of-
appropriate it.
Source of revenue.
Yeah,
Right,
but are
okay.
they gonna match necessarily?
They should. I mean, there should not be an example where they don't match. Because free cash is here, and we physically need to take it out of that account to put it over here. And to do that, we need either a budget expenditure, which we don't put it in the budget, or we need a warrant article.
Okay, so I'll put it in here, but I should just put something up top too. I mean, I have to put the same thing on the,
But you have
on
a
the
free
revenues.
cash on this.
I do, yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, and those two should match.
Okay,
And like, so, and I guess the way to do that and to test this is to do the 26 numbers, because we have all of those numbers from town meeting.
Right.
okay. Anything else? No. So, this is wrong then. So we will do,
Let me share the budget model again, just to, I think
Thought
it's
I
good.
did, I'm sorry.
Good,
Just
good.
thought I did.
He doesn't want
Yeah.
to share it again.
Let me just.
He's like, I
let me
would
share my
really,
screen.
really rather not.
No. I subconsciously deleted that.
Okay, so this is a starting point.
Did you
for
take
it.
over?
I just took over, yeah.
Oh, well, you should tell me that. Go team.
This is where we started. This is the overview of the whole budget. So
For this current
for
year.
this current year, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yep.
as it was at town meeting.
Okay.
It may have changed slightly since then. But basically, on one side, you got all of the money that is going out, and all the money coming in, and then the two of them obviously match 32 million.
Right.
So the CPC funds, for example, are part of these ATM articles here is sourced from free cash, bonding, CPC funds, basically, and TNC. So those add up and balance out. So if we're doing a model, the starting point should be something, we want to see what does this model look like in a year's time, 2 years' time,
Right.
5 years' time. So that's what we're trying to do, I think. So we just need to make sure we're not double counting anywhere
Exactly.
or, messing things up. So
Right, and the challenge is, what you have on the right side does not match what you have on the left side.
Here
The
it does.
segmentation.
it does
The
in totality.
In totality, of course.
Yeah.
But when I'm getting into the weeds,
When you get
and
into the
I'm trying to
weeds,
dissect where does
Like
CPC
ATM articles is a conglomeration
Exactly.
of things.
So the only way to make that match is to break that out the way you have it on the right
and,
side.
and in this model here, you can go back and see then where that number comes from, which is over here. This is this number here,
But you have it broken down.
and it's all broken down here. So all,
if you could pull those columns over,
yeah,
right?
you could pull those columns over to here and say, rather than having one big number, you could have all the columns there lined up. That's also possible for 26.
And then that's the way you would be able to figure out the details and be in balance with everything.
Because ultimately it's got a balance, isn't it? It's got a balance between what's going out, what's coming in, and the gap is going to be the tax that has to be generated.
Well, yes. Can you go back to that for a second?
Oh, sorry.
But, so for example, with regard, what you just said, but does that take into the account of financing, for example? So you've got bonding there as revenues.
Yeah, because it's a source of funds, right? It's a source of funds for the budget. For this budget, we're
Right.
we're allocating money from bonding to cover that cost.
Right, so this is a nice, simple spreadsheet, but it doesn't match the way that we've currently attacked it, because if you remember,
Yeah.
we're saying all the capital items are off the books, because we're assuming bonding and capital items equal the same
In
thing.
that case, then you take out from ATM articles all the bonding articles.
Right.
It was
which
still
is
it was still balanced.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but this is how, what you do here in nice all rolled up,
Yeah.
doesn't match our model. Both sides
Yeah.
should come,
Yeah.
Can we make it match? I'm trying, and really, I'm not being,
no,
I'm
I
not being a
hear
wise
you.
guy. I don't really understand how you guys make these Excel spreadsheets so big. So there's gotta be a way to make it match. Like, you have to,
Well, yes, the question is it getting us anything, right? So like,
Right.
for example, like we can immediately say, well, CPA funding is gonna be a number that's gonna be the same on both sides, revenues and expenses, right? Same thing for, TNC, who cares? It's so small, it's irrelevant. So the items that have popped up are free cash, like how do we deal with that? We're kind of figuring that out, I think at least I am right now. Bonding is another one. We've kind of operated on the assumption that within our level of detail and the accuracy that we're gonna have, is it worth doing it on almost a cash basis, essentially, factoring, we get this amount of bonding in, and here's our payments and blah, 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 blah. Or are we just gonna assume that, look, we have capital items, they're gonna be bonded, it's an even swipe,
because that's what we're doing now. That 1.6 isn't the budgeted debt amount. That 1.6 is what is within the ATM articles that was bonded.
yeah. Right,
So
so we're ignoring that column, remember that column?
We discussed it, right? We said we'd take it out. We'd take it out
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
both,
yeah,
on
yeah.
both sides. So
But Maria, Maria's,
I don't think we need to make we don't need to make the number 32 million on his model to match my number. We think we can take out some of those lines and still have a meaningful analysis that says we need to know how much the levy needs to be in 27 and 28 and going forward. That's our question, isn't it, really?
yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to get at. That is
Yeah.
what's driving this exercise.
So if you take out equal amounts of bonding on both sides and CPC on both sides, it doesn't affect the amount of the levy calculation that comes out of that. It's still going to be the difference between each side.
The only, and I can't say I know the answer to this, the only caveat to that is, are we calculating these numbers in a way that is different than the way the overall tax the max tax levy calculation is calculated?
Well, the max tax levy calculation is based on last year's levy limit plus new growth and 2.5%.
Any debts or anything like that, so it's.
And then debt exclusion,
Debt excluded.
Well, that's a separate,
Whatever
that's a
that
separate
is.
line, right?
but,
isn't
but
it?
that's
Yeah.
how the levy is calculated,
yeah.
right?
Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure.
So
I'm just trying to
on
make sure they're
this-
independent.
Yeah,
So, Tony,
Yeah.
the question on this is where you have max allowable levy, 29 million.
yeah.
Does that include items that are debt excluded?
I can show you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew you would be able to show me that.
We have,
Yeah, you
we
do.
had 88,
Yeah.
85.
So you do have that,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So where did we just go to there?
So, I mean, it seems like, as long as, so your question was, is that how we would figure out the max? And it is, as
Yeah,
long as you
yeah.
include,
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
items.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, we have them.
And as
right
long as
here.
we're on the same page with whatever the assessor's putting in for new growth, which we are because we get that directly from
Right,
Mike, we don't calculate that, they do.
right, yeah.
Okay, so, and that's where we've been off. Have we relayed that information back to him yet, or?
I don't know, Rayshawn, because it was last meeting, right, that we talked about it, Mike wasn't here. Did you talk about the new growth? How far off that's been for the last couple of years with Mike? Because we mentioned it the last meeting. I don't know.
Was it
Rayshawn
off,
was-
has it been off for the last couple of years?
I think it has. It's
yeah.
been, it was this year, and then we went back
So
at
we'll,
least one more.
presumably we'll know that, right, when, next week, when he presents to the select board. That number will be in there. Is that part
It
of the
should
stuff?
be in
Yeah,
there.
so,
And that's.
Yeah, it'll be
yeah.
adjusted
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
actual.
The discussions we had
Or-
weren't
oh.
about the new growth, it was more so about the budget guidelines and, how I prep. for the
Okay,
budget.
okay, that's fine.
yeah.
I was just, but we can find that out, and then we should make sure that we talk to Mike and the assessor.
Yeah.
And by we, I mean you, because you're the chair.
Yeah,
To make sure that we're all on the same page, because we've been underestimating that.
right.
And then that ends up being how we have $4.2 million in free cash, but
Okay,
we need to be careful with that.
Yeah,
all right, so just to end on mine little thing here. So, yeah, I will put all of the warrant items, the items in as best as we can here, according to the specs you've just given me. And we will grow them, that's the thing. So what am I gonna grow them at?
I don't know how you grow those items. You've got to use the capital plan to grow those items. Right, because it's all based on capital. So what we did last year for warrant articles has no relevance to what we're
I know,
doing this
they're
year for warrant,
independent,
right? So
exactly.
that's why we have the capital plan, to be able to go through that. And at some point, I assume, Rayshawn, the capital committee, I don't know, has a letter gone out to the department heads to say, review your capital plan
We
and
have-
get back to us?
Gary, when are we meeting? When's our first meeting?
We don't have one set. It was supposed to be 2 weeks ago, but they canceled it.
The only thing we've got is we told department heads that capital requests are due by December 1st.
Okay.
That's the only guidance we have.
Okay, so that should be based on, I mean, and I'm hoping that they got this guidance too, but they've had it. All of our department heads should know this, should be based on the capital plan. So we should be able to estimate, you should, before we get all that information and what's on the capital plan. And that will be refined, and usually gets refined down. But that'll be refined. But that's why the capital plan is,
But if
Was
we're
it
making the
that-
assumption that the capital plan is all funded by bonding,
well, no, there's
No?
no source of funding in that. That is just the plan, here's the items we may need. And then we look at the bonding, or sometimes, in the past, and we talked about this last year, within a couple of years of the override that we did 20 years ago, for the next couple of years after that, any equipment we bought was done as a debt exclusion. So it was an override debt exclusion, because they were trying to make sure that this made sense, which means it's an
we're still bonded though.
they were bonded, but it was as a debt exclusion, so
Right.
it doesn't get added into the levy, right? So we've done that a couple of
It
years.
doesn't get added into the levy limits.
Right, that's what I mean, the levy limit.
Yeah,
So, but it's an exclusion. So there's no funding sources on the capital plan, and there shouldn't be, because if we need a roof somewhere this year, we could probably pay cash for that roof versus a bonding of the roof,
Right.
which is what we did in
But
the
in
past.
general, the things on capital plan are multi-year items that in general we would bond, I think.
I think so, but I don't think we can make that assumption. And if you're just trying to look at articles that may come up, I think that we just, that's how you can plug those numbers in. And then in years out, you may not be able to break out the bonding versus the free cash versus the yada, yada, yada. You know what I mean? You might just have to have one number.
Okay, I see that as presenting a problem to the model.
Yeah, it's a problem because then you need to put in somewhere, where's that bonding source of funds to balance the model out? Because if you're going to say there's $1 million here on a fire truck, that's covered by $1 million bonding.
Yeah,
Right, but if you have a $200,000 roof, we may not want to bond that.
we understand that, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so
we
I
need it
understand the
right now.
model might not work, but I think the model needs to deal with the reality too. I mean, and I don't know how you make that all work. I don't know if you
Okay.
talk to Chat GPT and make it work. I mean, I don't know. There's something to be said for computers and there's something to be
All
said
right,
for reality.
We will take this under advisement.
Okay,
Okay. Good luck to you.
okay. So,
It's an iterative process. I will clean this up and I'll send it. Can I send it? How do I share it with you guys?
The drive?
I know. the
You
time.
have to send it, you can send it to us for informational purposes only, to be discussed at their next meeting, and nobody can respond.
Ah, perfect.
That's it.
Okay.
So literally
But-
in the
Yeah.
subject line, for informational purposes only, to be discussed at next meeting.
anything on the drive as well,
Okay,
yeah.
so I will place it on the drive for informational purposes only.
Yep.
Please QC it. This is, if you
Okay,
extra free time on a Saturday night, it's good stuff.
wild.
Okay. All right, I will stop.
Fun.
Free time, what's that?
I'm over here Googling like
Okay.
bonding
So,
question.
item 7B is the FinCom budget guidelines. So this is what we talked about last time. We did the budget guidelines, and we had some discussion about some of these topics, including we would not defer all warrant articles and capital items even from the B budget. We would just look at them with high scrutiny. I also talked to Mike and looked at, we reviewed his budget guidelines that he sent out based on this. So I've come up with a slightly modified, sort of streamlined version of this to sort of coordinate what Mike's sending out and to try to make it clearer and to take into note the comments we made last time. So essentially the A budget is a level services budget. B budget is a level funded budget, more or less. The numbers are the same there. There's been sort of discussion about the hiring impact of those. So with the A budget, we want no new hires. We want no new salary adjustments or hours or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously there's contracts and CBAs and things in place for a lot of those
Can't do anything
things.
about that.
Yeah, which will limit that. And then there'll be reductions, again, within contract limitations on the B budget. And then for warrant articles, both of these are the same now, basically saying minimal, but use free cash where possible, basically. So that's sort of
So
simple.
the B budget's no override / failed override, correct? I mean,
Yes,
we're not,
well, yeah.
because we're not saying no override, we're saying we're gonna go for the
Assuming the
override.
override fails, yeah.
And we're gonna present both these budgets at town meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So that's what, that's my modified version of, again, I'll take
There was something on
edits
this,
and
Tony.
comments.
Can you go up to 4?
I would bold that word reductions, personally. It's like, I think like the town people knowing, not having override doesn't mean we just status quo and we don't get the fire station. It means people who work for the town are getting cut or hours
I
being
think
cut.
people are
service
going to
being cut.
realise that.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do that in our
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah.
I just think
So-
like stressing that is
Yeah.
going to be important.
The flow of this meeting, just because I don't think I've experienced one yet, with the full budget presented, we, line by line, we give like a general overview, how much
The
detail do
way it
people get?
works is that, it's presented as a whole thing, but anyone in town can then say, line number 25, I'm gonna, you know,
Like, let's dive into that.
there's some terminology, you put a hold on that, so then it's pulled out and discussed separately,
Okay, okay.
and then we vote the whole budget.
Were you there for like the planning board one? That was
Yep.
the only one that was
Yep.
held last year,
Yeah.
right? And so that's the discussion that
remember
goes
that.
on, yeah. Now, I don't remember how we did this when we did the override. But I feel like, Gary, I don't know if you remember this, did FinCom present two budgets? I mean, there was definitely an A budget and a B budget.
I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah, like literally presented the A budget
Yeah,
and then had to vote on that, and then if that failed, we went to the B budget, because that's pretty
I
much,
think I have to
We
vote
went
both.
through that, but I thought maybe the budget had 2 columns.
When you
we just,
present
we
Or
just,
we would make reduction, I don't remember. We'd have to
we
look
just
for
need
it.
to make it not
I
complicated.
think we'd need to
Good
vote,
luck.
I think we need to vote both anyway, because if the A budget passes at town meeting,
Yep,
it may fail at the balance.
right, and then we need to have a backup budget, otherwise we have to go back
So
to
they have
town
be- Have to be
meeting.
both voted,
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
even if A passes.
Yeah, so maybe that's the way it is.
Yeah.
On this page, it says under B budget, defer all warrant articles. We
Yeah,
actually said
this-
we were
this-
gonna scrutinize them,
This,
right?
this was the one we presented, we talked about last
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So this one here is the edited version. This is the version 2, basically.
Okay.
This is the current version.
So but
This
we
is what we
said
work-
we weren't going to defer on 4. We said the B budget, we weren't deferring warrant articles. So we didn't change it here. That's all I'm saying. Do you see where it says B budget and then it's the
Yeah.
fourth?
Yeah.
Well, nothing's changed in here, because this is the old version.
Okay,
This is now obsolete.
okay.
This
So
is
it's
the-
just that,
this is-
that
this is-
slide
this is
that's the new
current
version.
This is-
Okay,
Yeah, this
So-
is the version now.
great.
Okay.
Hmm.
So should the warrant article and capital B budget box be more restrictive?
Well, last time we said not. When we discussed it last time, we said it's the same. But, I mean,
Well, I mean,
it's still maybe it's more minimal. I mean, they're both minimal, right? I mean, yeah, we're trying to say we're restrictive in both.
that said, if we have the free cash to pay for capital, we have to be careful about deferring capital. Because if we don't have the money and we have no choice but to defer it, that's fine, then we have to defer it. But if we defer too much to the next year, all we end up doing is bunching things up, and eventually we're gonna have to do, we're gonna have to do a big capital spend.
And it costs more.
And it costs
The
more.
thing costs
Right.
more.
Yeah.
So if we have the free cash to do capital spend this year, in a normal override year, I'd say absolutely we have to cut that. But we have free cash. And I think that's where we have to use it, because we've already said we're not comfortable using it in the budget.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
So I talked to Kristen about this, and I've shown this to her as well. And I'm going to go to next week's select board meeting, and actually you're all welcome to join as well. Actually,
I'm gonna go as well. Is anyone
Yeah.
else gonna go? Because we have to post a possible
yeah,
quorum.
we should just quorum. Yeah, if you want to come.
It's Monday night.
Monday
I wanna
night.
go to listen to the tax classification.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, select board have their own view on budget guidelines as well. So, they will have a discussion about what they think they should be. This is our guideline. But we,
Is it different than this? Do we know?
no, I don't. But I mean, I think it's just. I'm being careful that we're not saying we control what the budget guideline is. We're it's,
Technically, only the
Well,
finance committee
Yeah.
we
provides
control the
guidelines
Article
to the
5,
town.
so we
Yeah,
do
that's
control
it.
the budget.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to know how different it was. I was a little
well, yeah,
concerned that,
no.
as long as we're.
And this is more relevant to the next part of it, which is the budget strategy. So, again, I come up with what I think our budget strategy is. Again, based on discussions here, and this is my wording, and I'll take discussion and comments on this. But the strategy here is that, based on the background that we have of a levy limit increase growth of 4.3% and a levy increase of 5.5% over 10 years, we've reached a point where we need to do a levy increase. And it's actually our strategy that we would expect to do a levy limit increase every number of years. We did one 20 years ago. We now to do another one. That is a normal part of the process, and this is essentially status quo actually, and nothing really earth-shattering about it. And that should be our strategy: is that we will do levy limit increases, pop 2.5 votes every number of years based on need and based on a sort of steady and slow increase in our tax levy. That is, I mean, and that is, I think, again, broadly in agreement with what Kristen's thinking, but again, this I think is largely a select board question about what the strategy is for the town budget.
I don't necessarily, I mean, it is, but we have to have, it's our budget. So for the other items,
You're talking something else.
right, the other items, definitely, we want to talk capital and all of that, that comes from the select board. But we need to, it would be better if we were all on the same page, and it sounds like we probably are.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's our job, we're supposed to keep the budget within 2.5.
Right.
Yeah,
That's not realistic.
well, let me ask you, so to that third point, bullet point in the approach, plan for an override every 10 to 20 years. Would everybody agree that that's a legitimate approach or fair approach?
Everybody in the FinCom.
No, I mean,
In the real, into the,
if
in
you
communities.
ask, some accountants from the state,
I mean, I think right now, that's the only approach, whether or not, yeah.
okay,
The concept of Prop 2.5 makes it challenging to have a budget without having to do overrides.
understood, but,
Unless you have unlimited growth, which
Some towns have.
some towns have and some towns don't want at all. and-
Yeah, unlimited
exactly,
tough in
some
this
fight
economy.
against, exactly.
Yeah, which brings its own costs as well,
Right.
of course.
Okay, I'm a little conservative, so I'm just like,
I don't love that line being in there. I can't lie. I feel the same way you do. I don't think we should be planning for operational overrides. Think,
Expect
plan.
instead of
you know,
plan.
maybe we can expect it.
Anticipate.
Anticipate it. I like that word better. Because
Anticipate.
planning makes it sound like we're gonna budget so that in 10 years we
yeah,
need
exactly,
another
we don't have
override.
to worry about the levy limit.
And we don't wanna do that.
We'll creep into it every 10
Yeah.
years. I don't like that philosophy.
So I like that better.
But at the same time, we don't want to get to the 10 or 20 years, or, I guess 9 or 18 years, and then have the FinCom then say, try to figure this all out again. So maybe there should, put this in a time capsule for those people then to expect the next one, or, put it in policy or, not policy, but guidance, write it down somewhere essentially so that the historical knowledge of the need doesn't just vaporize once we get over the hill of it,
Yeah.
Maybe
That's
Prop
why we
2.5
still-
might not be a
Maybe.
Well,
Say
yeah,
that
true.
again? I'm sorry,
Hopefully.
what did you say?
Is the feeling in Boxborough, like Prop 2.5 is reasonable?
I think a lot of people understand,
Like,
other than
do you
people
understand
involved.
like why it exists?
So I
and-
think that the biggest problem in Boxborough is you have a growing senior population. 30% of our population is over the
Totally.
age of 60, which I take issue with the fact that they use 60 for a senior, but that's a different issue. So getting over that. But there are a
You're a
lot
young
of people.
senior.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people in that number that really, feel strongly that we need to stay within 2.5 because they're on fixed
Yeah.
incomes. And
But it's an unreasonable number.
it is an unreasonable number, and so
Yeah.
that's the problem. But you still, your question was specifically, how does the community feel? I think, and
Yeah.
there's less than 20% of the families that have kids in the schools. So there's this
Yeah.
whole big number above that, and there's a lot of people who are like,
I mean,
no,
that's-
I want to stay
I
within the
reckon that's the
2.5.
majority of people who are against growth too.
That's
John, you had
why I'm
a
asking.
question, comment? John Grieven?
Yeah, I just had a quick question, because Maria, I know you've said before too, the last override was 20 years ago or so. Do we know when the last one was before that, where we even are, like, does anybody even have some knowledge the last time we did it? Like
Before the 20 years ago?
1982?
20 years before
Yeah.
that, Prop
Did we-
2.5 was just being passed,
Hold on,
passed in the
Gary,
80s.
do you have any idea? I don't know when 2.5 went into effect, so.
80s, mid-80s.
Mid-80s,
Okay.
so this
Right, so
took,
we've done like one or two of these, is essentially what I'm trying to get at, so, okay.
I don't know, I was told at the time that was the first time an override had passed in Boxborough. Now, I don't know if that was in the
Okay.
context of we've never had an override, or it's the first time an override's ever
One that
passed.
failed, but
We
2
did,
years
the
ago.
year
Okay.
before,
1 year.
it failed, and then,
Okay.
and then we passed it.
Okay.
80,
But that
1980.
need still wasn't there for,
Mid-80s.
I mean, we haven't had the need, I know you've said for the last 20 years, so that, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, we're talking about seniors and not wanting to do the 2.5 and all that, but I think it reflects, responsible fiscal management that we've had for the last 20 years, that we're not coming Because we've talked a lot about, we're not coming every 2 years for an override, we're doing everything that we can, so like this just kind of is what it is. It bubbles up and it happens every now and then, and we'll try and avoid it, but we need everyone's support in town.
It may be, the other thing is, when the school, before I got on the school committee, it goes back a number of years, the then school committee under Bill Ryan, who was the superintendent at the time, gathered and got together people from all over the state to change the way schools were funded. And it was because the Acton School Committee led that, the Acton Boxborough School Committee led that with Bill Ryan and went to Beacon Hill and did all of that. And so I think we're getting to the point where the elected boards, both school committee and select boards, have to start putting more pressure on the state to say 2.5 doesn't work. I mean, 2.5 was put into place basically by a group of people who were anti-tax. So it was the responsible mass taxpayers, yada, yada, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's time that, every town's going through this.
But to back up here, I mean, what I think we do need to have in the town, we need to have a budget strategy we can talk about, because it's better to be making decisions like this based on a strategy rather than as a knee-jerk reaction to, suddenly we need to have an override because we've run out of a levy limit. So the idea that we have anticipated this and it's part of the normal process every 10 or 20 years or whatever is I think the narrative we want to have here. That's what I'm trying to get.
See, the only thing I would add to the narrative is we have spent significantly more money in the last 5 years than we spent in the 15 years before that on adding, we've added firefighters, which was needed, and the town voted on all of this stuff, adding personnel to town hall, adding hours, aside from insurances and that kind of thing. Every time we add somebody, we add to our pension debt. And so that becomes a huge nut on this side that we have no control over, right? Because if we don't control it on the front side, we're kind of screwed on the back side. I think that I would also like to see our approach being, being really, fiscally conservative. That's what got us to the 20-year mark. Is, there were a lot of times that the finance committee was, literally fighting for $2,000 with the select board on town meeting floor. And we haven't done that in a really long time. Not that I want that, but I do think that our approach needs to be that we need to make sure that every single year we're scrubbing these budgets. I don't feel like we've done that over the last 5 years.
Right.
I think we started in crisis mode. When you got on and I got on, we were in this accountant that was in Florida and, it was crisis mode. But now we're getting to the point where if we're going to do this approach, I'd like to see us be a little more fiscally conservative in our budget.
So how would you word that in here then?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I do think it needs to be in there. I think,
Because I think the problem is if you say we're going to change the way we do things, we've been too lax. That's not a good message to send.
I know.
Yeah, I like your strategy of sort of like, we have a toolkit for this. We packed it. We're experiencing it now, and we're ready. Here's us deploying the thing that we planned.
But the toolbox needs to include.
Like additional
Yeah,
scrutiny.
it has to have a saw.
Right, it needs to,
Well, no,
it needs to
does.
include, a higher scrutiny on our finances. It needs to be,
But
you
what
know,
does that mean?
I
though?
don't know.
Is that
Well,
like line by line?
What, we do that now, so it means
review,
line by line,
Justification,
yeah. So,
hearing, like something like that.
I mean, one of them is that number 5.5%.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
yeah. It needs to be, does that need to be a tighter number? Should we be looking at 5%? Just
Well, I think continued scrutiny on the budget line by line, which we've been doing. I don't think all FinComs do that in all towns, actually. I mean,
no, they don't.
yeah.
Acton doesn't.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
definitely.
So I think that is part of our strategy. I think the fact that we have continued, line by line scrutiny. That could
And
be,
I think we need to take that, and we
Yeah.
need to be not afraid to say, we're gonna cut this out of the budget. We'd like,
Yeah.
we'd like for you to work with us, but, $2,000 for employee appreciation, we appreciate our employees, but right now is not the time to spend that kind of money.
Right.
That, you know what I mean? And that's what the line items, and we look at line items, we may need to cut, it's death by 1,000 cuts with the budget.
Yeah.
So every $100 makes a difference. If you do that 10 times, where are you? You're at $1,000.
So our 10-year average levy increase is 5.5%.
You said it's too high.
Wouldn't that assume we need 3% new growth every year to have that math out at the end?
That's a fair point.
So does the planning board have a target of having
Well,
that, or are we
well,
just
wait a
sort of
second
like
now.
expecting that, right? Because it's 2.5 plus new growth, so if we have a 5.5% increase every year, that requires 3% new growth.
It's an interesting.
Right.
way to
And,
look
well,
at
we're
it.
gonna get to the point, though, we're not gonna have the property, even if the planning board was like all on board with that. There is only so many pieces of property in Boxborough that can be
It's not gonna-
redeveloped.
Yeah.
We're all arguing for a lower number.
I think we're just a realistic number. Like, we have to be realistic that at some point, we can't say in 7 years, we want 3% growth, because we may be, who knows, if we'll have space to redevelop.
Well, the other limitation is water and sewer, right?
Yeah,
That's a big limitation here. So.
yeah, I mean, water we're bringing in, right?
One-
on
in
that side.
One part of town, yeah.
Yeah, but they've got the conduit things, piping things,
Yeah.
to be able to bring it over the bridge at some point, if
John?
we want to. That's being like built
Yeah,
in.
John Kerwin's goes
Yeah.
in.
John?
Yeah, just some quick historical context. I took a look. So 2.5 went online in 1982, and it looks like Boxborough followed the same pattern. It didn't pass in '89, came back 2 years later and passed, and then in 2003 it didn't pass and came back 2 years later and won. So kind of same thing, like lost and then 2 years
So there
later
was
won
one in
again.
89.
So there's been 4 total, 2 wins, 2 losses.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is when there's a loss, when you bring, it happened when I was doing it in 2006 or whatever. When it lost, there were so many people that were floored by the fact that it lost, and we lost people. People were, because don't forget, we had the school at that time. Blanchard was part of our budget. So there were cuts, and I think people were just so taken aback by that then we came back the next year and said, okay, we failed an override, we scrubbed this budget, we are to bone, like there is nothing else to cut it, there's no fat in this budget. People realized, and we had a very detailed list of, and Mike should do this, Rajon, on the B budget, here are the cuts we're gonna have to make, and it's very real, 1 firefighter, 2 police officers, 2 people at town hall. I mean, I hate to do that, but,
Yeah.
3 people for DPW, but they were real cuts. And that's how we got people to pass the override the second time. Because the first time, there was this kind of like, we're gonna need to cut. But there wasn't here's what we're gonna need to cut. And we had kind of buckets. Here's the first line of cuts, here's the second line of cuts. And that's what we used to do on the school as well.
I think that's
So
where we need to be presenting this, though.
I mean,
Yeah,
Like,
that
to
would be how
start.
it needs to be
Yeah.
presented.
I mean, are we trying to, I think we have to decide if, as a town, we're trying to expand our services in excess of inflation.
I think that's a
Right, so that's really what it gets down
policy
to.
from the
Right,
select
yeah.
board.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a select board policy that they have to look at.
Okay.
And then we need to say, well, this is what it's gonna cost financially, and we're not in favor of that.
Okay, those are, no, yeah, I
Right.
want
Yeah,
to
so
stay
that's-
in my lane.
So that's what I'm also trying to be respectful of what the select board's purview is and what our purview is. So I'm trying to sort of navigate between those things. So what can be, what do we execute on in terms of doing stuff, which is select board stuff, I think.
Well, I think we've all
And we
worked,
pay,
yeah, we
what-
have to
what
work
we
together.
bought. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
why
what
I
if the
feel
select
like,
board came back and said, I want to increase, I want, free police dogs for everybody. That was a bad example.
but then we would say, that's not acceptable. We're gonna put in a budget that does not include 3 police dogs for everybody. And if you want that, then you need to make a motion on town floor, because we're gonna do the FinCom budget under
Okay, so
Article
now
5.
you're ignoring now you've just crossed the line you just introduced 10 seconds ago.
No. They can set a policy on what they're looking for services.
Right.
That's their job. Our job is to say, we can't afford that, or we can afford that. And so hopefully as they're setting the policy, they're also being, working with FinCom, right?
So then our job is to say, here's what the town can afford.
Yeah, pretty much. This is what the
Okay.
town can afford, and we know that this year we have to go for an override because we're actually gonna lose services. Like, to keep our services, we're gonna need to go for an override. But we're saying no increase in services, right?
Yeah, I'm also saying 5.5%. I mean, I don't know whether we can achieve that with the school budget. It's another whole nother no
Yeah, it's all
complexity on this. I mean, but that's.
But we have done that before. We've done that where, you know, I remember that the police department wanted, I think, tasers. I'm not sure what it was. It was like $5,000, and FinCom said no. And that was the FinCom that believed, I mean, I actually had a conversation with a member of the FinCom, not anyone present, that said, our job is to keep the budget within 2.5%. That was long before health insurance costs were out of control and that kind of thing. But we said no. Select board made a motion on town floor to increase the police budget, line item, blah, 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 by, for, and they had to do a presentation, and then people voted. And there was one year that there was multiple votes on different departments, because FinCom said, no, we can't afford that, and the select board said we need it. I don't think we'll be in that position this year, because I think we're all pretty much on the same page, but that has happened in the past.
So, are we as a FinCom okay with me going to select board and saying this is our FinCom budget strategy? Is that acceptable?
I'm a little concerned with 5.5%.
I would rather it say 5%.
Well, we've already gone out and given budget guidance of 5%.
I know.
But the 10-year average, that's, I mean, I think,
That's the actual, yeah. The top one is the actual, right? I mean, the question is what should be going forward?
Right.
But we've already given guidance of 5.5% to Mike. Well, I mean, we can change that. We can go back to Mike and say, update the guidance. I mean, part of the model is going to tell us that, right? I mean, although with an override we can do 5.5%, I'm sure. But
yeah, I mean, with the override,
yeah,
that's not the issue. I'm not even thinking from that perspective. I'm thinking of how much do we want to increase everybody's taxes every year? It's purely whether it's within the override rules or not, right? I mean, do we really? It's higher than, you know. I'm surprised it was 5.5% or 10-year average growth rate. I thought it was going to be lower than that, but I know there's inflation, so that means the net services that we're offering.
but it has been increased services, right? It's increased services, increased personnel.
2 years ago, we had an override size tax increase
The school.
for the schools.
Yeah.
That I'm sure bumped up that average,
Yeah.
because we would, you know, that was a huge
That
increase.
was a 15% increase.
Yeah, which we don't normally
in
do.
the school budget.
No, that was there.
So that's part of that. That's why,
Yeah.
That's
That's why-
5.5 may be more realistic actually. Maybe not acceptable, but it may be more realistic in terms of we are going to see a school budget increase, an assessment increase.
I understand that, but what we think it is, or what some other body is sending us for, that we have to work with, that doesn't mean it's our target.
Yes, and that's the difference between us and Acton. They set a target, and the school has worked to that target for the last number of years. Now, unfortunately, because they had to set that target before they did their override, there were cuts, and the school has made cuts. But that is how Acton, basically ALG sets a target, and the school goes in, and this is your cut, and this is your cut, and make it work. That's how they've been doing it for years. I think that, they have some money this year because they had an override 2 years ago, but, I mean, that's how they've worked.
For me, within 5.5 is like, you don't have to use it all. So as guidance, I mean, but I know it can be misinterpreted, like it's not a target to spend 5.5%. This is sort of speaking to the A budget, because we already have 2% as our B budget, so in an A budget, if there was a really good justification to spend up to the 5.5, it meets our average and, right?
Instead of, increase up to target of 5.5 instead of within target. If you did up to, that gives us some leeway.
Up to 5.
I would be okay with that too, but that's.
I'm reluctant to sort of just arbitrarily make a
These
make
are
a
all
change.
arbitrary.
They are, but we've already sent out guidance to the school and to the town about these numbers. I mean, I don't want to go back and
Fair
say,
enough. I
we've
hear
just
that.
had a change of heart and now it's 5%.
Well,
And A budget is level services, right? So, average, meeting our average levy increase up to that exact number doesn't feel exorbitant.
It's part of the sort of, this is consistent. This is status quo basically. Things would increase beyond inflation because we have, there is growth in town.
And this is this year's budget strategy, and you want to use it as long-term.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I'm feeling like I'm not as comfortable with 5.5 long-term.
Okay.
But it says up to. I'm much more comfortable with that language, because you know, honestly, if we're gonna try to maintain a levy capacity and not have an override in 3 years, we're gonna have to be tighter in budgeting, and we're gonna have to scrutinize every item that comes through. And, that also means we may not be hiring for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you know,
Well, yeah, yeah.
you know, because we have to control our pensions. The pension is not controllable if we're hiring.
No.
And I've been banging my head. That's the one drum I keep beating, because I think it's really important to understand that.
Yeah.
It puts us, pensions is the same category as health insurance and retirement. And well, that is the retirement. Those are the two big categories we have no control over. So where you want to go? What are we doing with this file?
Well, this is what I have for right now, and this is what I'm going to go to select board with next week, if we're all okay with this. I mean,
It's not ideal, but up to get you somewhere under 5.5.
I feel like I'm the only one with the 5 in mind, so, well, maybe.
It's not a hill I don't need to die on that hill because of that change of language. I'm okay with that. But you know what? Next year, maybe it is a hill I want to die on, and so we're gonna send out our
So
budget
I'd rather die
guidelines
on the
next
hill
year.
now, because we know it's not gonna get easier next year. Do you think it's gonna get easier next year?
No.
I'm
No.
reluctant to change it because we've already sent out guidance.
I hear you,
and-
Tony,
yeah,
I hear you.
yeah.
I hear you.
And I
Okay.
also want to have this sort of narrative that we are consistent, you know.
I think we look at, you know what, I think we look at it again next year, and if things aren't better, let's see where we land next
Yeah.
year. You know,
That's fine.
the
let's do
school's
a-
going
a-
through a
do-
reorganization, there's
Yeah.
things happening. Let's see where we shake out, and if we're not in a better place and the school's not in a better place, then maybe we're at 4.5, who knows?
Yeah, it's a strategy. I mean, I think we should do it
Yeah.
earlier in the process. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the problem. I'm trying to make a strategy up here, sort of after the fact in a way, which is not ideal.
So we do it
Yeah.
earlier, but we have
Yeah.
the basis of it already done, and we
Yeah.
just gotta look at these
Yeah.
items, which makes changing it next year in September easier.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, it should be the first thing we
Does
do
that
in
work?
September. if
Yeah,
it
and
wasn't
I
already.
want to hear
Yeah.
where we are with the whole school situation before I start pushing either direction. I'm like I'm speaking on this super aggressively, but I'm pretty conservative and set on kind of plan B at this point. I think the next couple of years, like if you look at the financial data that the Fed's been putting out, it puts us in like a pretty disastrous financial position. On like a federal and state level, and because Massachusetts doesn't allow for like town to town taxing of income and all the other taxes that you might get in California, we're pretty restricted, and the more the state pulls funding, the more and more we're going to have to rely on property tax. And I feel like with an aging population on a fixed income, we're doing the majority of the town dirty by presenting a budget that's not going to be in favor. I know it's like a loaded thing to say after being silent for 20 minutes absorbing this, but I feel like the B budget is probably going to be in favor of the town. It's like an eat your vegetables budget to put us in a reasonable position in the next 3 years. Like if you're looking at the incoming data, we're going to be in a bad way nationally for the next 18 months. So I'm really concerned about that because we're going to lose federal and state funding, and that only leaves property taxes in Massachusetts.
Same idea, slightly different angle.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to predict the future is insane, but macroeconomically, I don't know if the trends are all positive for the Western world for the next 12 to 36 months. Who knows? I mean, who knows?
Yeah. So are you saying that, Michelle, then that we should not have an override?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Yeah. I'm like, maybe I'll be the one hater on the override plan, but I don't think we should have an override.
You got an opinion,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think the way that things are trending right now, we need to be protecting the population, and I don't think it would be a huge shock to people with the rest of context of everything else happening in the world that we're going to have to make some cuts to keep critical services stable.
So the
Like,
other
I would
option-
rather protect the services we really need and cut now.
So the other option is you can do the override, especially if the override passes, you can still do the override and do a more restrictive budget.
I'm down for that too.
Within because the benefit of the override is it gives you a levy limit capacity with some flexibility. So you can then have some choice within that.
Right.
With a failed override, we've got no choice whatsoever. Whatever happens, we're stuck with
The levy limit.
the levy limit. Yeah.
Which I'm okay with like adding a little bit of flexibility. I don't think I'm okay with that, allowing ourselves this much flexibility, because people are just gonna take what we give. And I'd rather just say now, like, we need to brace for impact, because that's what I'm reading from like the private sector, and that's what I'm reading from the news generally.
Well, we did the billionaire's tax 2 years ago in Massachusetts, and while that hasn't trickled down yet, it's proven to be a pretty effective
It's
tool.
helped a little bit with
And
the schools.
today, I don't know if you guys signed on, but a lot of people in the town signed on to the fiscal crisis letter that was sent on behalf of the schools and a bunch of other communities, basically, demanding that the state provide more assistance to offset the fiscal crisis that a lot of towns are facing, primarily regarding schools. So, Western world, yes, I agree. Massachusetts, kind of the ballast of the Western world right now, and has some things working for us. So, I agree with the conservative approach, but I have a little bit of faith in the system that we have in this little corner of the Western world.
That's fair.
And yeah,
But having said that, you still need to, someone's paying for the state to fund the schools, and it's
Right.
us, through taxes. And if businesses are down, then we're not paying sales taxes.
Like,
And,
we're not going to the store and buying coffee and not groceries, but like everything else that Massachusetts taxes.
Yeah.
And I'm
And-
worried
and
that
that's-
like
yeah.
those benefits won't even, the rate at which policy moves in Massachusetts, those benefits aren't even coming to us till 2027, 2028. Which is why I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to be like
You're
the
not at
Grim
all.
Reaper and be like,
No, I
like,
think it's
cut
important.
everything,
It's a very
but
good perspective.
I think it's probably proactive, and I'd rather not put ourselves in a position next year to be like panicking and having to slash things we don't want to. We're in a position now where we can really pick and choose what line items without panicking. And next year, if we're like forced into another cutting year, that's going to be a lot more painful. We're not going to have a choice in what we cut.
Right.
But I think we
Okay.
can do that. I think once we get the A budget in,
Yeah.
I think that's what Budget Saturday's for, and
Yeah.
that goes back to the level of scrutiny in this budget, and I get kind of pushback from members of the select board when I say that to them, but this has got to be a super tight budget, and there are things
Yeah.
that are gonna come out of this budget
Yeah.
that have crept their way in.
And we should look at the B budget and see what it really looks like, because you may find it's actually not that palatable either. There may be things there which do
Sure.
get cut. So
But we don't have that yet.
we don't have it
That's
yet.
the
right?
problem.
We
We
don't
don't
have
know
it
what
yet.
those
So I
cuts
think we
are
need to
gonna be.
look. We need to sort of look at both, and we'll have both, and we'll have that information ahead of us at the budget Saturday, not before.
Yeah.
And we can do that.
And we have to, the most important thing is, whatever we put out, we need to be completely transparent. And we don't want people to think these are scare tactics around the override.
Right.
The B budget's a scare tactic. The B
Yeah.
budget we need to make sure that we keep it, this is a reality.
It's an
And,
option.
we have a lot of credibility, because we've worked really hard, the finance committee, over the years to gain that credibility. That said, if we put forward a B budget and the override fails, we have to live with that B budget.
Sure.
And we have to know that, and everybody needs to be on board with that.
Exactly.
There can't be we're just gonna move this here and put it there. It's gonna be, this is your budget, and
Well,
these are the
that'll
cuts.
be really interesting to see how all the different departments kind of pick and choose what that B budget is
Yeah.
sacrificing, because that's, a whole bunch of different strategies converging
Right.
on that one day.
And to that, is that sentiment passed down through the department heads?
Right.
Well, the
That's
other thing
really-
is,
that really needs to,
well, yeah,
otherwise the gaming goes on. Right.
but it's also got to roll up to within that 2% number, because a lot of these lines will increase regardless. Insurance and health.
Exactly. No,
So
yeah.
it means actually disproportionately cuts will come on personnel, services,
The stuff we control.
the stuff we control. So it's not going to be level services on personnel. It's going to be real cutbacks in those. So
Right.
we need to see what that actually looks like before we can really make a judgment on that. I think as a FinCom.
Yeah.
The other thing which Kristen threw up, which I think is frankly a crazy idea, is that if the override should fail, we should just carry on anyway and put another town meeting on the budget to try again within a very short period of time. I
To try
don't,
what again?
Wait, you think we should do this?
no,
Oh,
no.
this is what you've heard.
This is Kristen. I'm just
yeah,
throwing
okay.
out, because it'll be a topic of discussion, I think, on Monday.
Oh, damn.
It's not, I don't think that's realistic though, time-wise.
Well, yeah, there's also.
Book the Regency a fourth time this
What do
year?
you do if you fail a second time? Then you're really in a hole,
Well,
right?
but what's gonna happen is because they moved to get to the Regency, we had to move our ATM date forward a week. Then we had to move our election to the first week of June. If it fails, you need 45 days to put a town meeting on.
Right.
So she can come in, but she's not coming into a special town meeting until July.
Right.
The fiscal year started, so we're starting with the B budget, whether we like it or not. And then I think at that point,
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna get people, because you have to go through the same thing again.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
I'm just letting you know that's discussion is going on, and I don't agree with it.
Who's going
No.
to show up to a town meeting in July?
All the people who do not want an override to go through. Because if an override failed the first time, unless it was like literally by 5, we had that in Acton, unless it's super close, it's crazy
Yeah.
to try to do that a second time.
Okay, it's pretty enough on that for now then, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just think too, based on what I found historically, and Maria, what you said, all the work we had to go, previous FinComs had to go back and do, we couldn't do that quickly to get it to pass. It's going to take a lot of work if we want to go back and get it passed, so.
So, and we actually there was an override committee in town that started in June after the override failed in May. That June they
It's a lot of
started.
work.
From what I understand, there is not an override committee, and we can't be that committee, right? Because it's a ballot question, and we shouldn't be that committee. We should give our opinions and let the town, I don't know who's gonna be on that committee, because right now, the people that normally would be on that committee, because they're worried about the schools, are right now worried about losing Blanchard
Yeah.
as a possible elementary school.
Right.
Right, so that's where their focus is, and hopefully that's gonna be decided in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But,
Maybe that would energize them to be part of.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
I will say the one thing is that, this has poked the bear, and parents have decided, okay, I need to be involved, because, how did we get here?
Yeah.
That's how we got the override to pass, but right now they're very focused. They're focused on Blanchard and making sure, where that goes, the AB forward stuff, so I don't know who's gonna be working for this override,
Right.
you know.
Another thing I need to talk to Becky Harris about is getting this training for us about what
The
can we
election.
what can we and can we not say as we go through this process.
Yeah, it's a big deal,
Yeah.
right,
so-
because it's a ballot question, it's a huge
Um,
deal, what we can see at the table.
Right, so that may be a joint select board FinCom training, maybe.
I think it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if the members of the school committee from Boxborough want to join us as well. There's
Yeah.
Liz. Liz is very happy about that I said that. All right, so you're going to go forward with this on Monday night,
Yep.
but maybe kind of explain in that the concerns that you heard from the
Yeah.
committee about
I mean, I
going
think
forward.
I will. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay. Next topic is fire station building committee.
Oh, boy. God. Okay.
It's another light topic.
All right, so actually,
Okay.
we actually made, I think, some pretty good progress last week, because we eliminated properties. We voted to eliminate certain properties. So, we had another property pop up, and I think at that point, we decided we had to make a decision as to whether or not we were gonna spend money on it. There was a property, 276 Middle Road, which is, if you're looking at Community Gardens, to the left of Community Gardens. And then there was the Community Gardens property that we were looking at. There was the 750 to 832 where the blue house is in the road, and 502, the original space. Also, the address that was big secret last time, which was worst kept secret in town, is 984 Mass Ave. So that's right where Mark White's place is on Sarah Way. To the left right now, Treaty Masters owns that property. 1300 and 72 Stowe Road. So those are the properties that we looked at the beginning of the meeting, and we decided that it was time to start eliminating properties. So we asked the chief, in order of priority, what would his priorities be on property based on operational, including sight lines and all of that. The chief said 984 Mass Ave, 1300 Mass Ave, and Stowe Road. 502, from a program standpoint, did not work. 750, 832, there was a real concern over the sight lines. We could put lights up, but ultimately the chief was still very concerned about sight lines. They were trying to pull like his truck out, like he has a regular, SUV. 276 middle and 296 middle. The chief went there as well. The sight line wasn't too bad, but the road is extremely narrow. Like trying to pull his truck out, he's like, there's no way I can get an engine out of here.
And there's Depot Road intersection.
And there's the
too,
Depot
yeah.
Road intersection. So, I mean, Community Gardens actually has got a wider section of road in front of the Neville's house between Community Gardens. But both of those, the other issue he had, and he had brought that up with the Community Gardens earlier on in the process, is the driving from there down to Mass Ave. That would, that's really curvy,
Yeah,
right? It's not a straight line.
People
So
walk there all the time and stuff.
exactly, and even when I drive down with my car, when you get to that bend, I go way to the left because there's
Yep.
always people.
Yeah.
So he was very concerned about that. So we voted to take off the 750, 832, 276, 296, and 502. 502 was just, we were expending so much effort trying to justify our numbers for the swing space when we knew we had a problem with the program. So we just decided not to go forward with that. So we are now currently testing. We amended the contract to do environmental testing on 984, which will include borings, test borings, one other engineering test, and a phase 1 environmental. And then a phase 1, because the assumption is on 1300, there's a pretty massive building on that site. So we can't keep that building. If we bought that property, we would probably have to raise that building. And if that building can be there, then a much smaller fire station can be there, and the ground is pretty solid, and we wouldn't have issues. There's a well there. They did look good in the leaching field and septic. But we would need to do a phase 1 environmental unless they already have a 21E, and that was something that Mike was going to look into. So that's what we're going forward with. We are hoping to have the information on these properties. We have 45-day due diligence letter of intent on one of the properties so that we can do our due diligence. And then hopefully we'll go from there. I think that literally the Stowe Road property is probably, it's a good piece of property. It's ideal. It fits our program. But the one thing that continues to come up is the abutters. And at our last meeting, we had one of the people, I don't think it's a direct abutter, who said that they would just hire an attorney and keep us tied up in court. So we're not looking to spend the next 10 years in court trying to build a fire station. So, but it's still on the list because ultimately that is the least expensive piece. So that's where we are on that, and we will continue to do our engineering studies and all of that and whittle it down as much as we can. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you remind me of how 984, or which one was it?
984 was
Yeah, 984 came to be.
How it came to be,
This
how it
wasn't
came
an
to our
original,
attention?
yeah.
So it was, we looked at it years ago,
Yeah.
because it's not a bad piece of property.
Yeah.
But at the time, the person who owned it, which is a different owner, he was trying to do a housing project on it. So the price was, kind of included this housing project. He was in front of the planning board. There was some ledge. There was a lot of reasons why that didn't work back then.
Okay.
The owner came, the town happened to be there for something. The owner came and spoke to the fire chief. The fire chief was there.
Oh.
They're doing some site plan stuff, so the fire chief was on the property.
Okay.
He mentioned it to the fire chief and then mentioned it to Mike.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's how it came to us again.
Yeah.
But this is a different situation now, because like I said, last time there was a lot of things on the list that took it off the
Yep.
list,
Yep.
including this development that was supposed to go in, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any concerns with Burroughs Road for the 1300 site? I know they just repaved it, right? But it's super narrow, it's twisty, just like if they were gonna access anything south of where they are.
So if they were to be at the
Logistically, would they be going out to
1300
Stowe Road anyway to go down into,
Okay,
say?
wait, you're talking about the 1300, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if it is anything that's not on, they would have to access, it depends, right? If it's anything on Mass Ave, on this side of town, obviously they would turn onto Mass Ave. If they had to go boroughs, that means that they would end up having to have gone Stowe to boroughs anyway to get to that section of town. So, you know, I don't think there's any bigger concern about that.
I'm just curious, like if they were going to Flag Hill, like are they always going down the Burrows Road twisty turny?
I don't
or-
think so. I think that they would, they'd go Mass Ave straight down to Summer and then down.
It seems like it takes them longer to get to their neighbors in that.
They're not gonna be going down Old Harvard Road much, are they?
Not unless there's a fire. If your house is on fire, they'll come down that road. Otherwise, you don't need to worry about it. So this is the same thing they were talking about when they were in Stowe. They're like, well, if there's a fire, you know, on Old Harvard, would you turn down and go that way? And, you know, the chief said, you know, 80% of our calls or 90% of our calls, we're taking I gotta do this, right out of the parking lot to Mass Ave. So, you know, I think they're always gonna try to get to the main road to get there faster. And any way you look at it, it's gonna be faster. That was one of the problems with the middle road properties.
Boxford's got narrow roads, you know, you've got to get a fire truck down them, you know.
If there's a house on fire, like,
And you know what, quite frankly, this question was asked of a firefighter, but not in a public meeting. You know, you've never hit a kid on a bike, people, like, how many pedestrians? And they're like, no, we've never hit anybody. They don't go down these side streets crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they've come up Middle
they also
and
like
Hill and
have
Picnic.
driven in Boxborough before.
I mean,
and
you
can
just-
drive a
Boroughs is
fire
just
truck, I'm
particularly-
assuming.
Yeah,
Narrow there.
they would not go there to get to,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
The
just to get to
website,
John's house.
the website says 1300 massive, just so you know.
Massive Avenue.
Really? What website?
Your website,
Does it really?
the milestones, yeah, latest project.
Oh,
Okay.
did you hear that, Rajon? The fire station building committee page says 1300 Massive Ave.
No, it just says, just,
Massive.
Rajon is
let me
our,
take a
like,
note.
he's our web guru.
just says massive.
And so maybe we could just change that. That would be
Oh,
great.
massive, not massive, massive.
Massive, yeah. So anyway, so that's, is there any other questions?
No, that's helpful, thank
Okay.
you.
So, I'm sorry, so
Yep.
when is, I'm sorry, I'm sure you mentioned this, but when is the next iteration?
We have an executive session coming up to talk about, Mike was gonna be reaching out again, but right now we have to wait for the testing to get to a final point of making, you know, sitting down and really coming up with numbers with the owners and making that decision. And, you know, what you're looking at is the options in no particular order, starting at $1.2 million, somewhere in the middle, and then up to, on 1300, 4.5, because if we even bought the property, we would have to take that building down, and that's about 700,000, without knowing if there's asbestos in the building.
You'd have room for a police station there too.
Yes, but that's not something, you know, we could look at a plan that included possibly building a police station there at some point, but the town has been very clear. They want the police station across from the school. That is, and they, you know, we can't do a public safety building now, because we'd be looking at a $60 million building, and we're having a hard enough time.
Oh, no,
You know.
not yet.
Yeah, but
But-
you might have room to, you know, expand that area, but we're not thinking about that so much.
No, understood, but,
That said, you could also have room, if you do it, you know, possibly for another town building, maybe eventually a community center, that kind of thing. We'd have to really see what that plan looks like.
Okay, thanks. School committee, I think we obviously heard from Liz, so
yeah, I mean,
anything
the
to
only
add,
other
John?
thing I have is, let me just bring it up from the last meeting, were the things Liz mentioned on the philosophy. Hold on, I'm spazzing here. One sec.
John, have they got a capital meeting yet?
Yeah, they just made a presentation on it, as a matter of fact, and I have a little bit on that as well. So, just bear with me. And am I no longer in the meeting?
In our meeting?
Yeah.
No, you're here. Why?
Ba-ba-ba.
And you're a co-host.
Yeah,
I want to share
you
this.
press share first.
Say that's so dismissive.
I was thinking even I know that. Although I wouldn't be able to find the
I didn't
document
see
I
you
want to
press
share
share.
after that.
Massive. There it
Okay.
is.
now, this is not what I want to share.
All right, but thanks for letting us know where that typo is.
It's going to be worth the wait, I promise you. There we go.
What's coming up?
Yeah, it's not coming up.
What are you looking to share?
It's their draft budget guidelines that they went through the second iteration on. As,
Liz has her hand up. Maybe she has it.
Liz,
Hi, do you have it?
Hi, yeah, so I have it here. I don't know if I'm able to
Yeah,
share
Nick?
to show the budget.
Hold on a second. Nick, can you make Liz a co-host? Thank you. There you go.
All right, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
So we are going to be looking to set our operating budget at an increase between 375 and 4.25, which is going to be an even bigger reduction than we had last year as well, because it's still going to be a 2.3 to 2.9 million dollar reduction in a level service budget for us. And so not like me just doing some extremely rough math, looking at like the $116 million that we had last year, the 3.75 would present, and this is again, my extremely rough numbers, like literally just rounding on big whole numbers, it would be somewhere between like a, almost 6%, 5.5% increase to the assessment for Boxborough, all the way up to, I think 4.25 was closer to like 13%. So just because, Boxborough is, roughly 15 to 18% of that, $118 million budget that we would be looking at, because it was $116 million last year, for the last, FY26, increasing it by another 2, we're looking at roughly 118 million, somewhere like that. It's just that we are a smaller piece of it, and so any slight variation does tend to affect the assessment for Boxborough much heavier.
yeah.
Can I ask a question on this budget?
Go.
So Liz, does this increase, does that include in contract negotiations?
It includes what we are forecasting for contract negotiations. And I will tell you that we are still, we've got our next meeting at the table is tomorrow.
Okay. And then my next question is, does it include any savings from the AB forward stuff that Peter has said that he's going to try to implement for next year? Because some of those savings are like 1.6 million and up.
So I know that it conservatively, assumes some savings that basically, when looking at the uncontrollable costs and the increases that we, are looking at for the next fiscal year, it was basically like, we have to implement some changes, otherwise, it's going to be too much of a cut that we can't, or it would be too expensive. So I do know that it does include conservatively some, but I wouldn't be able to pinpoint exactly what it is.
So
Now, that being said, tonight is the steering committee where they're going to be whittling down to, some of the options, like what the options that the committee will actually start thinking about and, potentially opining on.
So are they, so that's my question. So it includes some of the savings, but not like, for instance, $1.6 million savings in some of these options, or there's not a number you can put around that, correct?
Correct. We can't know
Okay.
that yet. So,
Okay.
we're trying to be conservative in our, plans and estimates, and we can only work with the information that we have now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to show the exact similar numbers. Let me just try. I know it's getting late here, so I'll be quick.
It's late, but this is important.
So, right there. All right, good. Let me zoom in. So Liz, I came up with a similar number. So, this is just for everybody, just so the mechanics of it, roughly. And this, Liz, keep me honest here. So this is the budget we had for last year, the overall school system budget. Then if we're just assuming a 3.75 increase overall, brings you to a budget of 120 million for 27. And then this is a swag. This is a very simple estimate of what the state aid subtraction factor is. It's very simple.
And is that assuming the $30 per student that we've been told
It
to
is.
assume?
The assumption
Okay.
was that it's equal to last year roughly. That's basically where I got that.
But the last year expectation or the last year what we got? Because they increased us from $30 a student to $150 a student last year.
Last year, from what they got, was roughly in the 19s, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so you can expect that to be less than half because we actually, because we had advocated so hard, so like fiercely with our legislators, they were able to increase. So initially they said, you know, expect $30 per student. And then they said, okay, maybe we can do 75. And then what we actually got was $150 per student. So we were able to add some positions back last year, which was great because of that funding. And I can ask, I'll ask Sherry to get me the exact numbers, what that $30 per student number would look like for FY27, and I can get that to you.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, just using last year's as a proxy brings you
Yeah.
roughly to 101 million. And so this is the allocation that I got from Adam regarding the town Acton, Buxton, Borough split, roughly 17.65. And that gives us a box, again, this is just a swag, but it's 17.8 million for our school system for ABSR part of it. And that's a 5.9% increase over
Which
last
is
year.
pretty much what Liz just told us, so
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
See,
Yeah.
me and John, smarties.
So we'll, yeah, I mean, just.
But it's
this-
better than we thought, though, right? Originally, we were thinking 10%, I think, at one point.
Well, that's on the low side, but if it comes up
Yeah.
at 4.25, it's 13%.
Yeah, I mean, it's still 6%. And remember, 5.5%.
I remember 5.5, yeah.
And if that state aid goes down,
Yeah, well, actually, well, she's saying it's gonna go up, right?
no, last year's state aid, if this state aid number is the $150,000 per student
Could be-
versus the 30, it's gonna go down.
Okay,
Okay, I
which
was hearing
means-
15, I was hearing
Significantly.
15.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that,
plus
yeah,
we don't know how the federal education aid is going to affect Massachusetts, because I don't know if that would trickle down to this year or if it would be FY28.
yeah, so if we can get that from Sherry, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's it on this stuff. So, what else did I have? Oh, the capital meeting, committee meeting, yeah, one sec, let me pull that up, see if I can pull it up. But they made a presentation to the school committee, talked to it last time. No real surprises, I think it's what we talked to last year, so. Were you here last week, or 2 weeks ago? No, you weren't, okay. Basically about $1 million net of capital, which was,
So I did review the video,
yeah,
and I saw your note about that.
okay. So, anything in particular, or? Yeah,
It's good news that they're not cutting.
no, but they are
So a
concerned.
lot of that's has to be paying the bond back too, isn't it? We took an original bond out that covered 9.7 million, I think, or 9.75 million, to do some rapid. So a large chunk of of the capital fund is going to pay that interest and principal back. every
So
year.
that maybe I missed that angle, but that didn't come up. That wasn't part of the discussion. So their presentation was basically on their plans of what they're finishing up right now and the plans for 26 and how, with what they have approved and funded, it's working out okay. But going forward, they're very much concerned about two things. One being the reorg of the school system that's kind of affecting what they should and shouldn't work on. They don't know yet. And secondly, they're worried about the deterioration of the capital plan. It's kind of accelerating because of the lives, basically where everything is in its life cycle. So that's something that they want to come back to the finance committees with, like, heads up, this is, probably needs to be a bigger number going forward.
So did we get a capital plan from the school?
We had a presentation, yeah, I mean, and they reviewed it with us. They don't give us possession of it, unfortunately, which is, I mean, I can ask, but I've asked before.
So can you, it'd be great to see a capital plan.
Sure,
But
Yeah,
can
I
you
mean-
ask about the loan, the bonding piece, the interest and principal, if that's included in that 1 million, or if that's covered someplace else?
okay, I will ask for it specifically, and, yeah, I mean, they're very, quite frankly, they're a little bit leery of giving that out. for whatever reasons, but,
I do ask, right?
yeah, so I will. That's all I have.
Okay.
I just got an update from the, I don't even know, Liz, if you've heard this, update from the AB Forward meeting tonight. They've eliminated option 1, which is the status quo. They've eliminated option 9, which is possibly, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They've eliminated option 7B1. I don't know what 7B1 is, and option 8B1.
Can you stop sharing your screen?
They've left
I
option.
think 7 and 8 had to do with the junior high and high school.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, probably, that makes sense. So that would be moving 6 up to 6, 7, 8, and maybe 8 into whatever. For now, option 5 is still on the table,
Which is Blanchard.
which is, yes, Blanchard,
Both versions of option 5?
are still on the table. But within that, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if I read this properly, there was a member of Boxborough Committee that said that he would no longer support option V1, based on, option 5V1, based on the research that said too many transitions is not good for kids and educational reasons. But I'm not there, Liz, so I don't wanna, I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that option 5, both versions are still on the table. So that is, where we stand, which means option 5.
And I can say anecdotally that we have heard, a lot from the Boxborough community against option 5 version 1. So, I will say that is something, and we are reading all of the emails.
You've heard a lot from Acton too regarding that, right? Because I've heard a lot of people from Acton also saying they're not happy with that option.
So we actually haven't heard very much about option 5V1 from Acton. At least I have not seen emails about it. What I've seen emails from Acton are specifically with the school cultures in looking to protect Conant and Miriam, respectively.
So the other thing that since our last meeting, I went, maybe I did talk about the Conant being a $50 million reno. Did I tell you that? So in the slides, they have Conant listed as a $17 million renovation.
No, I didn't know that, no.
But
That came up in,
that came up at the community meeting, but then somebody really, really pushed, because no one really understood where that number came from. I still don't know where the 17 million came from.
A long
but
time
It
ago.
came from
yeah,
the 2016 study that they did.
Yeah, okay, well, a lot has happened since 2016.
Exactly, but
Peter
that's the only
admitted
real
it.
number
Yeah,
I
and
can
Pete-
point at.
and-
Peter admitted that.
And Peter said that was an old number, and it looked like it would be closer to a $50 million renovation. So, there it is. Like, if you're doing $50 million in debt on that school, that's money that's going to debt and not education, and so yada, yada, yada. So anyway, that's where this stands. They go back, they meet one more time, and then it goes to the school committee. And, yeah, so,
Okay.
my opinion on the outcome, but whatever.
Okay, good. So next topic is, we've been asked to do a calendar year 25 report for the end of the year.
Already?
Yep, well, it's due by January.
Wow.
Hey, Tony, before you move on, I have a question for
Yeah.
Maria.
Uh-oh.
I wasn't here last meeting, but you said you've been hearing rumblings about, if 5 goes through, about pulling Foxborough out of the region, or Blanchard out of the region.
No, okay.
Is that even possible?
No. So to be clear, I heard parents say we should pull Blanchard out of the region. I think I've made it clear to a lot of people, in order to do that, I mean, what a catastrophe, but let's get past the financial catastrophe that would be. You need to have.
More expensive for us, obviously.
Far more expensive. Like, I still, even though I'm frustrated with this process, with the Blanchard, with this option, I still think that regionalizing Blanchard was the way to go, that there's no going back on that. That said, you would also need the Department of Education to approve it. I don't think the Department of Education has ever approved of a decoupling of a region. They've been encouraging over the last 15 years, regions, forming regions, because it's much more cost efficient. So,
Absolutely. The
yeah.
question was, without changing the regional agreement, can we pull?
no, we'd have to,
We'd
we'd
have to
break the
remove-
agreement, but you'd need the state blessing for that.
Just that piece.
Yeah, but you can't just, I don't know how you would do that. Even if you went to town meeting and voted to secede Blanchard, you still, we're part of an agreement, a written agreement, could Acton sue us? Yeah, that just gets messy. And for those people, part of the problem that I have found through this process is the historical information isn't necessarily front and center. So when people are standing up at these meetings and just saying Boxborough should just go on its own, what they don't have is the people that negotiated all of this or did all the numbers. Boxborough went to the region for a reason. We could not afford to stay on our own because we still need to have superintendent, a principal, a director of, at the time it was a special education director, now it's director of pupil services, I think, and a business manager. So we would become so top heavy in administration, we'd have to lay off teachers to pay for the administration that by law we need to have. So it's just not realistic. And I know that the school assessments are a lot of ouch right now. We do need to keep in mind that for a long time after we regionalized, there wasn't as much because, it was we were saving on the Blanchard side. So there's a lot of history.
Whatever it was, helped
Yeah.
both towns, essentially.
Yes, it definitely helped both towns. That said, there's a lot of history that went into this and combining the schools. There's still people in town that tell me, I told you so, especially through this process, which is getting a little bit, it's a lot, but I still think it's the best decision Boxborough made. And I don't think the state would allow us to uncouple. And going to town meeting and getting a citizen's petition to go to town meeting would not allow us to do that. We are part of a regional agreement.
It's a non-starter.
Not a lawyer.
It's a non-starter.
It's a non-starter and should be a non-starter. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, so I started to work on a draft because I sent it out to everybody. It's actually very similar to last year's version, and I'll change the numbers, and some of the commentary will change a bit, but much of it actually will be the same actually. But so please, if you get a chance, just review it and think about that. One thing I was going to add to it actually, just going down the page here, I was looking at assets and liabilities for the town. So I thought it'd be useful, just looking back at the dashboards to see how are our funds and our liabilities changing year to year over the course of the last 3 years. So look at the stability fund, we've gone down a bit relative to the operating budget. Free cash has gone up.
We used that 1 year for
We used it
funding.
1 year. So the one question might be, should we think about topping that up from free cash at some point? That would be a town meeting warrant article, I think, to do that.
And the thing we used it to fund was an ambulance that we're probably not gonna use that money for.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind before we put money into it.
So just bear that in mind. We may want to think about topping that up a little bit because 5.1% is sort of right down at our guideline, actually at 5%. So we can do that. Overlay reserve is negative, but I think that, as we've discussed before, it's probably too high a number anyway. But it's still a negative trend it's taking relative to. Although it's gone up and down a little bit actually, relative to operating budget.
Right, but the overlay we think is too high, right?
We think it's too high, but the trend is negative. That's what I'm saying.
Do we know, what is 26? Do we know what that number is in 26?
We do know what it is. Yeah, it's look at the dashboard. You'll find it. But I don't know offhand. But anyway, so those are the numbers there. In terms of unfunded liabilities, the good news on OPEB, I haven't got the 23 numbers yet, but we've actually had quite a good positive trend on the OPEB liability because we've been paying it off. I'm waiting to find out from Honghua what the pension liability is. And there's no fund, I don't think, funding that. We just pay an assessment each year, but the liability will change, I think, over time. So it'd be good to sort of track what that's been.
Didn't Mike present, like, maybe once we catch up on the OPEB, to then transition into a pension?
Yeah, that's our policy to do that, yeah. So but I think it'd be interesting to see what it actually is and how that's trending over time. And then in terms of debts, I've got here the bonds and where that's trending. But so debt service as a percentage of operating budget is positive, but of course that will change dramatically when we get a new fire station. But I just thought it'd be useful to have that sort of like a 3-year look back in the report.
Right.
I do think it's important to note that we have not done a major infrastructure build in this town since
Right.
the library.
Yeah,
And DPW was on the list even before the fire station, and we like fell into this building. That was $1.7 million.
yeah,
Once we did some upfitting in it, it ended up just under 2 million. And that was the best deal ever. So, you know, I think that's one of the reasons that our debt is fairly low.
yeah.
But we also, you know, we're in need of some stuff getting done on these
Yeah,
buildings.
yeah. I was also looking at the debts. There's some things in the debts that we've actually voted on and haven't actually banned or bonded yet. But I'm wondering, they're smaller ones. Whether we should use free cash for those instead. I mean, it needs to be a town meeting article to do that.
We should look at it.
But we could look at that, I think, because there's sort of smaller things. I mean, maybe I'll just show you quickly. Actually, if I stop share, go to the dashboard. We should be able to see that. Zoom. Shoot. Now I'm having a problem with Zoom now.
If that's something we really want to think about doing, Tony, we could also think about doing that at the special town meeting, if we don't think it'll be too controversial. We don't have to hold
yeah,
it until the
yeah.
annual,
Yeah.
depending on when that hits. I guess that would be the question.
So just looking at what's our future bonding here. So we've got, for example, the culvert, 124,000. We've got the ambulances covered, I think, by funds. The Hagerwell chlorine system is 72,000. So those two things could be covered by free cash, I think, potentially.
Yep.
At a special town meeting. So you just take a little bit off the bonding burden and use some free cash up.
The thing with the Hagerwell, we need to talk to, we need to understand the school pays part of the maintenance on that.
Yeah, there's a fund for that, isn't there? I think?
Right, so
Yeah.
we need to figure that out, because if we're gonna
Yeah.
pay, we don't necessarily need to pay the 72 if there's gonna be an offset from the school. Or is
Well,
that
I think
72
I think
net of that? That's what we need to
net of that. I
confirm.
think that's net
Yeah.
of that.
We
yeah.
need to confirm that,
Yeah.
I mean, 72, what did we say? We said 124 in the 72.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big amount, but I mean, it's
But it's something.
something we can take off the
Yep.
free cash.
And we know that the ambulance will probably end up off, because we'll probably have enough in the fund,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ambulance fund for
yeah.
that, by the time it, comes off the line.
yeah. So anyway, so that's, yeah, maybe look at the report.
If we really want to do that, we need to put a placeholder in, if you want to do it at a special town meeting. I don't know, do we have any idea when we're gonna fund those? I guess what we need to figure out is when that's gonna be funded or bonded. And if it's before May, then we would need to put a placeholder for special town meeting for March.
Right. I'll talk to Mike about that.
Yeah.
Would we put it in the warrant or just do it on the floor? Or
You
what?
have to put it in the
In
warrant.
the warrant, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to put something in the warrant, so, Gary's at the microphone.
Okay.
Hagerwell, did we do that this year?
It's
The
not been,
school had that in the budget.
it's in the budget, but it hasn't been done yet. It's not-
No, if it's done this year, the school money's, the budget's gone. That's the school budget. It was budgeted for this year in their operating budget. So we need to find out if it's gonna happen, or we lose the school funding.
We can't lose the school funding, they signed an agreement,
They do,
So-
they need to put it to the next year's budget.
right?
They-
Or they could encumber it, you know, they could encumber it in June and pay it, but,
If they know about it.
well,
We just have to be upfront with the school about whether we're gonna spend it or not this year, so they can plan how to do it, cover it, right?
yeah, right, if it's in the budget, then we definitely need to understand that,
And this is Hagerwell for the chlorine system?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
We
that's,
started that.
we've started that.
We
So
started-
is it already bonded?
yeah, I think that's in there.
It's not in the ban list. It would be. Well, actually, it is in there. Unless it's TBD.
Too small to bond.
Yeah, it's on here. It says authorised unissued. On this list you gave me just now. On what?
The 72,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't take out any money yet.
Yeah. So the work has started, but we haven't paid for it yet.
Hager well chlorination,
Yeah.
yeah, it's on their projects, capital planning projects.
So we should figure that out. Because Gary's not wrong, we
Yeah.
need to, you know. But if it's in the budget and we're bonding it and they're paying for it, and this is net, the bond is net, then they should, if it's budgeted, we need to bill them for it. So that's, yeah,
Yeah.
we really need to be on top of that.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
So
Okay. Calendar. Next FinCom 2nd of December. Then we have a BLF. I think it's largely talking about the school thing, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, they put it off so that, but I mean, Liz, are you guys gonna may have a decision by the 3rd? Or you'll have the whittled down from the final whittled
That
down
was the
left?
plan, wasn't it? I think. They
I
had the
think
rules
that we'll
plan.
have more of a whittled down, and
Okay.
we'll have, because after tonight's meeting as well, I know that we're planning to do some more community feedback as well.
Okay.
Do planning board go to BLF?
There, yes,
So should we have that discussion then about planning and growth?
I think we should.
So I'll get it on the agenda for that meeting. Yeah.
I think it's just, I think we all need to know what our roles are
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
So, I may not agree with their role, but.
Yeah. Okay. Then budget Saturday, January the 3rd. Capital Saturday the 7th of February. And weekly meetings from then onwards from budget Saturday fund.
Is budget Saturday, January 3rd?
Yeah.
Yes. And capital is the 7th of February.
Okay. Committee reports. John Grieven.
Sure, one sec, let me just get to the right doc here. Couple different committee reports. So RecCom put in for CPA funds for the new flare structure. That's just continuing to update FLARA. As of right now, you know, they've done a little bit of the update a couple of years ago. So that finishing off FLARA is part of the master plan and also in the CP, the community preservation plan and the capital plan. So that should be going through. But not much else for RecCom. Sustainability updates. We had our meeting last Thursday. Year one, for the Green Communities update, the LED lights are going in around town, all the different town buildings like fire, library, DPW, town hall, and separately the weatherization of Blanchard. The bid is out for these items. It was brought up, and I know we've discussed as well, there's still continued concerns on using Green Communities money for Blanchard, and also any further investments in the current fire station. So the Sustainability Committee is definitely discussing those topics, which was good to hear from a FinCom perspective. You know, so currently the plan is to really hold on doing anything else on the fire station, so there's more clarity about, you know, timeline and planning for that. To note though, the Green Communities
So
plan was
John,
drafted.
on sustainability, on the swap shed, which we voted for and paid a huge expense, it seems to be closed for the winter.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, and I was going to get to that in just a little bit for
Okay.
that. What was I going to say? So just one last thing about the Green Communities is we had found out right before the meeting a bunch of those things that have gone out to bid, it came in lower. So if they have any remaining money, they'll work on the town hall and library weatherization, which is the first thing you have to do in Green Communities before you can do anything else. Yeah, the swap shed went live, and the biggest stumbling block there right now that they're hoping to overcome by the spring is still need a lot of volunteers to run the shed and educate everyone who comes to the transfer station to really understand like what you can drop off, what you can take, and kind of how it all works. Kate Davies talked about, you know, hopefully through the spring and into the summer, once everyone gets kind of up to speed and educated on that we'll be able to leave it more open and not need volunteers there, you know, for the full shift that the transfer station is open.
When does it reopen in the spring?
Probably Kate said they were aiming for Earth Day, so late April.
So the Christmas tree I just dropped off last week, someone could pick it up in April.
Yeah, yeah. I think basically
You need to put it in the old spot where we used to put
Yes.
stuff.
Maria, that's what I was saying. We actually talked about that. I think we're back to the old leaving it in front of the bins for people just to take, and then the DPW folks to just dump in the bins.
So there's a spot in front of the first bin that we used to put
So
stuff.
we,
I'm the
so we
person taking
revert
the
to
penguin
plan A
stuff.
basically from
Yes,
from
revert to
November
plan
to
until the
April.
spring.
All right.
I'm just a little, wait, I'm kind of baffled. It's just a shed, right? Like, I've been there, it's just a shed. So, so
Yes.
in theory, it could be self-governed and someone could check in maybe once a week and remove trash? Or we could put
Yeah.
a sign?
Yeah, I mean,
Perhaps?
ideally, yes, but from what I understood from the sustainability committee folks that have volunteered, there's been a lot of, they've been getting a lot of questions of what goes where, what you can take, what you can do, and all that kind of stuff.
But you can
So,
take anything, surely. So you can take anything.
I don't know if there's been
I mean, I
volunteers,
might
because
just
when I was
take
there,
it,
it was
drop
Kate
it off,
Davies
and take
herself was the
everything.
one doing it, so,
Yeah.
I understand.
Maybe some feedback would be, is there a way so we can get more use out of this expensive
Mm-hmm.
purchase? Perhaps in the means of like signage or other volunteers that could help
Mm-hmm. Okay.
besides outside the committee?
In the season where there's people who need the things that might be available there too.
Right.
The
Like ice
upcoming
skates.
months would be
Yeah.
the time I would expect people to really find some gems there to
It's
maybe
the Christmas
keep
season.
the Christmas
and
spirit
gift
alive, like a
things.
Christmas
So,
tree.
actually, I do have a legitimate question. Acton has a swap shed.
Oh, wait a second.
No, I know you did. No, you had a legitimate question too. But I'm kind of chuckling as I ask
legitimate
this.
question.
I'm not,
After 9 o'clock.
no. I'm chuckling, but I really mean this as a real question. Acton has a swap shed. Actually,
Yep.
Acton, there's a whole bunch of towns. Do they all have volunteers, or is it just sort of self-serve? Because I thought it was all self-serve.
I don't know the answer to that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we did talk about that too, about also trying to get more volunteers outside of the sustainability committee, and even just like maybe linking in with the high school so they can fill their volunteer hours and things like that, and any other groups that may want to do that. So I think that's a work in progress right now.
So I'm just, why does it need this much policing?
Yeah.
So, yes.
There was a lot of people pushing back about that it would turn into a big pile of crap, and so maybe
Yes,
it's
that's-
from community
that's-
feedback.
But it is by
Yeah,
some definition. That's exactly
I mean, when
what
I was
it
there,
is.
it was a
It is
lot
kind
more
of-
in the shed.
It's just not a pile.
In a
It's on the
shed.
shelves.
When I was there, it was like a flea market outside the shed. So unless they're,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay, but
stacking
so,
it as a
I mean-
cube and Tetris at the end of the day, it's
No, and I can hear people. Somebody doesn't want to have the job of having to. Okay, now it's my job to make this mess go away. I can understand that. But why are there like limitations on what you can take?
Yeah, you would think
what
you'd
are the
want people
limitations
taking.
you can? Oh no, you can take kind of whatever you want. It's more just trying to help. I think they also probably don't want someone coming in there and just cleaning the whole place out, because I
But-
know.
But
Okay.
why?
Why not? Why not?
I mean,
But we didn't talk too much about that. The conversation actually shifted more to now that it's closed. We didn't discuss this too long, but it sounds like some people hang out at the transfer station and like to scoop up everything all day long. And I think DPW has concerns with folks just kind of almost dumpster diving all day long, if you will.
But it's,
I think it's
So-
still,
But
they
it's
can still do, they
trash.
can still do that though,
I
can't
know.
they?
Basically, it would be trash for everything else. So,
okay.
I'm with you.
that seems like the spirit of the whole
Yeah.
thing.
I love
yeah,
it.
no, I
So,
agree. The old
I-
thing, right? One man's trash, another man's treasure kind of thing. So,
I mean, I just want to get our money's worth out of it, I think is my feeling. And I didn't realize that it was going to be closed for
yeah,
half the year.
Yeah.
I also think
Yeah.
that people in this town, we're adults, so I think part of it is, I don't want to be policed, right? So, John took my air fryer that I didn't want because it was too big, it was driving me crazy, put a sticky note on it, says, "This works," and put it in front of that bin where we
Yeah.
used to put stuff. It's gone like that because,
Yep.
so, I mean,
great.
we're all adults. We don't want to be policed on what we can take or not. I don't know. I don't understand. I thought it was just sort of, somebody's trash is another person's treasure, whatever, and so they should be able to go in and get their treasures.
Yeah.
I thought that was the point, so it just seems a little crazy that it's closed. Okay.
was that the original plan for it to be closed during the winter?
I don't think so, but I don't know what they had lined up for that originally, no.
Yeah, I
'cause,
don't think that was in the original when it's voted on. Nobody said it was a 6-month thing. It was
yeah.
I thought it was year round, my impression.
Yeah.
It wasn't explicit,
Yeah.
but you'd expect we're adding a swap shed to
Yeah.
the transfer station. You'd expect if the transfer station's
Station's
open, the swap shed's
If
open.
it says
should be open.
seasonal, it may have changed my vote on that, frankly.
Same.
Can
I
you,
didn't
Mhm.
know it had to
John,
staff.
can you have the unenviable position of taking this feedback back to them?
Oh, no, I will. I
Okay.
will.
Thank you.
Without the snickering.
Yeah.
Of course.
Legitimate questions.
Very, and yes, tell them we're asking legitimate questions, even though we're giggling a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Don. Anything else? Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one other thing, the waste reduction working group, we're gonna start kicking that off in January. That has been delayed because our tech rep retired. And a lot of positions at the State House, aren't being filled. And I think that's, we discussed how that's probably kind of intentional, as we were alluding to earlier in the meeting. So we'll kick that off again. I did bring up the fact that I think we had talked about even just some of the feedback I've gotten from all of you about how this is going to be a tough sell. It's failed a bunch of times, of even just starting to explore, could we just have one trash provider in town? And they thought that was a halfway decent idea to start looking into, because honestly, I don't know if we're going to get a state rep to fill that technical position to help us guide us through the waste reduction working group, because they're the one that the tech rep is the one that has all of the numbers and all of the modeling that we would need at FinCom to like look at it and be like, oh, this is a good idea, or this is going to cost too much, or whatever it is. All that feedback that I would be looking for as their liaison to want to bring back to all of you to be like, hey, this is going to save the town money, or this ain't going to work and it's never going to fly. So we're still working on that for right now, but nothing going on there till January. And then the last thing I have for Water Resources Committee, I'm finally going to meet up with Les on Thursday to catch up and, discuss their priorities and any next steps for that.
Thank you, John.
But that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, I have some CPC funding requests I just want to keep everyone informed of. So the Conservation Trust Fund, there is an increase from $10,000 to a request of $25,000. It is not clear from the application why. So that was my feedback during that meeting, was why. So
this is supposed to be like a little slush fund for them if something comes up.
yeah, so essentially my reaction was, after going through like what they spent money on the past 15 years, was there's nothing here to justify, like no projects upcoming, like there are no planned large spends that require this increase. So why the increase? They're gonna go back and do that detail. That was a big one. The Cemetery Commission is $9,500 for ongoing restoration. This was like a well-explained and I guess an ongoing thing that's been happening. The Rental Assistance Program is $69,000, which was, we reviewed the application, and this has been like a super successful program, and we essentially said like this is exactly what CPC is supposed to be doing.
Is it higher than last year, or is it the same?
It's about the same.
Okay.
Yeah. The new roof for Town Hall, that was a new application. There's a significant amount of data in the application about Town Hall being a historic building, so also like pretty straightforward. One that actually is pretty interesting in this context, the Flora playground replacement is $300,000. That floored me. I was shocked. I did not know that playgrounds were this expensive. And in the application, we received simply a printout of the quote, but zero explanation on like why it was expensive, how it was bid, what is exactly unsafe. There are concerns raised about like the safety of the playground and, getting the town getting sued because someone got hurt, et cetera, which I think are fair, but I think I would like to see a competitively bid system and not like, maybe we don't need the Rolls Royce of playground. I don't know what playgrounds go for, but I'm sure I'm going to find out.
This is from Recom, right?
Yeah. The replacement of windows for the 1857 schoolhouse number 2. This one I'm super familiar with from Historical Society, but also it's one of our, I think our only remaining original schoolhouses in Boxborough. $20,000 spend for the replacement of windows, and I think also directly related to community preservation. there was one more in here that is not in my notes, but essentially, in summary, there's just a couple in there where the applications are incomplete or baffling to the group. I think with the I did not know that playgrounds were so lucrative. So we're going to continue to go through the applications, and John's been doing a great job taking us through that. So I feel pretty confident that we're going to have a rigorous review process between the group. Our next meeting is the 4th.
Michelle, how much was the town hall roof?
Give me 1 second. $144,000.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And you said rental assistance 6,900?
69,000.
69,000, thank you.
Yep. And I brought extra packets. I'll bring them to the next meeting if anyone wants to review the justifications.
Okay, thanks.
And when was the meeting, the CPA meeting?
The
That you're
CPC,
referencing?
November 6th.
Okay.
It's the first Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I asked because my first report was going to be the Conservation Commission had discussed their CPA application and that they were going to be requesting 25,000.
Did they discuss why?
For conservation? Oh, so you know
for
why?
conservation. So it sounds like they actually reduced it down to 20.
So
No,
wait, do you know?
25. She said 25.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
25.
I thought you said 20. Okay.
It's 25,
Yep,
but do you
so
know
we're on the
why?
same page. No,
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm going off minutes. You know,
Maybe
as
we'll
you guys
both
know,
go and find out.
I'm on the lower impact liaison ships because
They
I
actually-
don't
I
have
think-
time to go to the meeting, so
I
I
actually
review minutes
think-
and agendas, and that's
I
what I
think
can do.
they film, they tape, so they might be on
They do.
Buckford
They're on
TV.
BB-TV.
I usually put it on and open a browser and put it on while I'm working, so I can listen to it. I mean, I don't know if
I'm
you
on
can do
Zoom
both.
calls all day,
All right,
so I
so
can't-
whatever. But that sometimes does that.
Yeah.
That helps me to like understand more the flair of it.
I
But
did
so
8 hours of Zoom before this Zoom.
So you don't know why either.
I don't know why yet. No.
I'm digging-
I'll
I'm
know,
digging into that
you know,
one,
when the
'cause there's-
minutes
They
are
started.
posted or if
Oh
I can
wait,
get to
okay.
them.
Gary's going. Here we go.
Does Gary know?
Uh,
I need to give you a little history. When we created the conservation fund 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it was essentially a fund, $5,000 a year, to build up a fund so that the Conservation Commission had some money if they needed to spend it.
Right.
About 6 or 7 years ago, they just suddenly bumped, and it's in the capital plan, by the way, at now 10,000. I kind of fought it every year when they bumped it up arbitrarily to 10,000. And I went 5 years complaining about this on town meeting floor, and then finally capitulated after I kept losing. So 10,000, it's in the capital plan, it's 10,000 right now.
Mhm.
It's in 10,000 for the next 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if they arbitrarily try to build it up for no reason,
Yeah.
I'll be on town meeting floor again, reminding the town of history of this fund, that it's meant to, unless they're trying to rebuild it for some reason, I'm not aware they spent any money.
Their balance right now is $46,000.
That's
oh
crazy.
my
That's
God,
crazy.
that's
So,
crazy.
like I said,
Yeah.
So
I don't understand. I'm sure there's a reason. Maybe we don't agree with it, but I'm sure there was.
I will
I
reach
would-
out and
Some reasoning.
on email
So I
and
will
send
say,
it.
the one thing that's important is, if it's not on the capital plan for 25,000, they need to make that change, because one of the things that we asked for equipment on Budget Saturday,
Yep.
is this on the capital plan, right? So
That's
we
why I'm
understand
flagging.
that.
It's
Yeah,
like
so you need to push back, one of you, both of you need to just say.
I'll contact them and just ask for a justification on it, at least, let them
And I'll talk
explain
to
why,
John
and then I'll
about-
bring it to
Yeah.
you.
And it's
Yeah.
not on the capital plan, so that's a
Right.
There
big
would be a
deal.
warrant article next.
It would be under CPC though. So,
Yeah.
but we still vote on that.
Yeah.
And actually, we've had FinCom members, sit on CPC and vote against items, Steel Farm in particular. So, so we don't necessarily, if
Well,
Michelle,
given
we
where
don't
we
think it's a
are,
good idea.
Just to be sucking money away for no apparent reason is crazy.
It'd
Yeah.
be conceivable if there was like some big capital program, but the
yeah. It's just
application
like-
had zero to do with it, and the largest
And it's
amount
not
they
a
spent
capital
was like
fund.
they were
Yeah.
like, oh, in case we need to acquire a parcel. And I'm like, is
But
there
that's
a
not
parcel?
their job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, their job is invasive management. I don't know if you guys have driven around and seen the absolutely abhorrent amount of invasives that are all over every one of our properties.
Yeah.
I think they need more money, but I don't know if.
But
I
that
don't know
wasn't,
if
but
doing
that's
it
not
without
what this fund
justification
was
is for.
for.
I'm
This
just saying.
fund was for
They do have a
studies.
list of ongoing projects, and conservation is very important.
So I think it's
Yeah.
important to go back
I
to
just need to
what
know
this fund was for as you go forward in listening to them, because it's not to purchase a piece of property.
Yeah.
They need to come to the town to do that. They don't have,
Yeah.
this fund was not
It
established
was
for that.
part of the application that said like land
Correct?
acquisition.
Correct, it was set up to be that if we're going to buy land, there was some upfront money that was needed to do that.
Engineering, that kind of stuff.
Exactly, and that's what it was supposed to be for.
Right. And so you can't just change that to maybe a piece of land comes up, we're gonna buy it.
Yeah,
They don't have that authority.
no.
They're
feed-
appointed, not
Feedback
elected.
has already been given to them from me, and John and the rest of the committee.
John has his hand up.
Oh.
John, grab it.
John, yeah, go.
Yeah, just real quick, Michelle, just for a little background for you. That $300,000 cost
Oh, the playground.
includes for the playground, includes a contingency, but it's for the equipment surfacing, installation, and also to bring it up to ADA compliance. But I'll see if I obviously know the RecCom chair, so I'll see if I can get you a little more information on that one.
Yeah, that one was just like confusing because half the application was missing, so we didn't have any of the context.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll,
and-
I'll take in an action item to take care of that.
Thanks,
Yeah.
John.
Oh,
My
sure.
feedback is that we've spent a significant amount of money on recreational
Did we just
fields.
do the other playground?
And we just put a significant amount of money into playgrounds on Liberty.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't do this project, but once we spend $300,000 on that, we don't have that money for any other project.
Maybe we
That's my
simplify it.
push, that's my comment to our representative to CPC. So,
Noted.
Thanks.
Okay, that's me.
I just had one other from library, again, working off agendas and minutes, but allegedly last week they voted on the salary budget for the library director, which was not public at the previous meeting, so I'll find out about it.
Is this
via
for the
minutes.
upcoming year?
For fiscal year '27, yep. And then they also voted on A and B budgets, so we have at least one of our departments doing the A and B. And I still haven't connected with Ed on DPW about all the capital items, so now I have 2 people to contact.
For the library, I heard at the select board meeting that they got a $100,000 grant for a generator.
Yeah. And
So-
it's
Bad
that
newspaper.
basically, you gotta have a backup generator for library for any contingencies that happen, mainly, especially here at town hall, if we need to relocate town halls to another building.
So that was great for them. My only other update is Council on Aging. I went to their meeting. The select board is talking about increasing the transfer station fees. And the Council on Aging was concerned about, right now, seniors over 65. So you see how that distinction happens? So get a free transfer station pass. And so they felt it was really important that that continue for the seniors in town, that they get one free.
I'm not sure, with the B budget, whether we can do that or not.
Yeah, I didn't even get into that because I don't,
I'm not sure if he was serious or sarcastic.
I don't know, he
Serious,
looks
I'm
serious.
serious. I'm a senior myself, but, so.
Yeah, but I think that, so anyway, the Council on Aging did vote, I don't even know if they voted, to have Bill send a letter to the Select Board stating that the Council on Aging thinks it's important that they keep the passes free for people over 65. That letter was sent. And you are 65, so you can go to the senior luncheon in December, which has got 51 people signed up for, and it's because the singers from the high school are coming, singers. They're amazing.
Yeah, they sang at the Veterans Day.
Yes, they are amazing. So they are singing, and that's it. That's all I got from the seniors.
Yeah. Okay. Anything on planning?
Planning, yes, thank you. All right, I'll be quick because I know it's late. So I go to all the Zoom planning board meetings. And one of the things I've asked Tony to add to the BLF agenda is that we're always talking about new revenue, new growth. And I was on last night, and this is a different applicant than the one I've spoken about before, which is Campanelli. This is a different applicant for 975 Mass Ave. He has been in front of the planning board for 8 months, the site plan review. That is to build because there's the DPW there's a piece of land next to it that has a metal kind of like contractor's building, I call it, right? And the same owner wants to build one next to that, same type of building. He has been in front of them for 8 months. And every time he goes in front of them, there's more and more this, and he changes the plan. Last night, they butt up against their legal, they have to make a decision. There's some legality about how long you can go on site plan. But, I mean, I've been watching these. Some of their points are legitimate, but they just continue to drag this out. And this is why our new growth number, though it's a little higher than we anticipate, we cannot, we're not seeing new growth because this stuff is just dying at the planning board level. I think, I've asked Tony to put it on the agenda. I think that there needs to be a global understanding between the finance committee, the select board, and the planning board, what it means, the new growth means, and what it means that if something, like this building could have been online, or getting to be online next year for tax revenue. But now, they were on until at least midnight, I think,
Still
what I
debating on the
understand.
trees in the front
Well,
there, or,
they voted to approve it finally, but with like all sorts of conditions, and yes, debating the trees. These are the trees, well, they're not gonna mature for 15 years, and people might see the building. It's on Mass Ave. It's not like they're building it in a neighborhood. So there's concerns around that. Campanelli is the same thing. They've put him off. I think his hearing is in December for conditions. I mean, and this has been going on for the same amount of time. So I think it's really important that we all kind of get on the same page. The planning board has a job, and that is to make sure that everyone's following the bylaws of the town. But if people are following the bylaws, we shouldn't be stretching this stuff out. This is what the new growth is. So I think it's a bigger conversation. But I almost felt bad for the applicant last night. He finally was just like, just vote. I need to know what I'm doing, because he's been stretched out, and he's, it's not a huge developer. It's a guy trying to put a building up on a piece of property.
They seem very focused on prevention, like how can we poke a hole to make it not happen? Yeah. Universally, from what I've seen, I've only been here so long, but
there's certainly a couple
it's
of members
not like an
that are
enabling of the things
it's
that
not
fit
how
within.
can we get to
Right.
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's how can we drag this out
Yeah.
to either a no, somebody walks away because they can't afford it, or we get to yes, but it's going to take us 8 months to get there. And I think that's the problem I see.
Yeah.
So.
On another planning-related matter, we had an email from the town planner here about the town vision plan.
Oh, the master plan.
Master plan.
Boxborough 2030.
Yeah. So we had an action item on there, which was we are supposed to be looking at acquiring land using CPC funds for conservation, which is really not our action item. So this happened last time. I think 2 years ago we got a request for an update of how you doing with your actions, and we said, well, that's not us because it's a CPC matter. So I spoke about it to Alec today, and he agrees it's not us, and he will change it in the spreadsheet so that in future we should be not in the spreadsheet as an action item for FinCom. We have no action items in that.
Right.
In that line.
The only action item we have is if it's debt. They decide to do debt,
Yeah.
is us to look at that and make sure
Yeah.
they can afford to pay it out, so it doesn't hit the town.
But
But that's not-
We're not an action-oriented
Right.
committee, really. I
Right.
mean, we're just
I agree.
oversight.
Yep. Okay, good.
Yeah. Anything else, John?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, then I think we've come to the end, unfortunately.
I move to adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay, I need to do a roll call to accept that we adjourn the meeting. John Grieven.
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye.
Stop and I.
Neil and I.
Connor, aye.
Newton, aye. Okay, meeting ended at